And we are back for season 2 of Bleach.
Yes.
I'm your host Soul, and this is my co-host.
I'm still am.
Are you sure? You
Alright.
seem to have changed faces again.
Ha 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 ha. So it looks like I can see all your recording numbers and levels too this time, man.
That's only until I swap over to this.
Ah, excellent.
But we'll swap over to that in just a moment.
Hey, look, it's our Discord. Hey, look, no, 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 it doesn't.
Yeah, what he's seeing, what you're all seeing, is obviously two different things.
Or is it?
I hope so.
Oh,
Otherwise, I got a lot more issues than I thought.
I don't know. I'm not the tech guy. You're the one doing all the recording.
Yeah, I'm not even a tech guy, so we might be all boned anyway.
Mm.
But here we go for the second season of Bleach.
Second arc. Technically, it can be divided into two seasons, even three seasons, but this is referred to by most fans as the Soul Society arc.
Didn't it also have one other title, or I'm thinking of a different arc?
It has the entry to the Soul Society, and also the
That
rescue arc as well.
That's probably what I'm thinking of.
hmm But it does start with episode 21. So,
And I do apologize for any audio issues. I'm still adjusting on the fly as we go.
and
Only
his computer may catch on
because,
fire.
yeah, if you heard that in the last one, I apologize. There's not much I can do about the fan at the point. My computer is just really old, really shitty, and wants to have a meltdown every 5 seconds. I'm sure
And
some of
well,
you can relate.
yeah, and especially so you can relate with the costs of upgrading a PC these days.
Yeah, especially with, well, we're not getting into it. That's not the point of the show.
No.
So, we will be moving on. So, we
hmm
are, as we said, doing the second arc of Bleach. Now,
This
this is
is
where it really gets moving. Like, there's a
this
lot going on.
as much as I enjoyed the paranormal high school angle. I do admit I do agree with most fans that it's the Soul Society arc that made me really love the series.
This also does point out one of the other this show does every so often,
Mm,
and that is scene changing rapidly.
yeah. Uh,
It's not terrible, and it's not ever out of place per se.
but I can't understand why some people say it goes too fast for them. And honestly, knowing the history of Bleach behind the scene, not that surprised.
No, it is, especially if characters you like that. Like, one of the other problems that we should discuss at this point is that because at this point there are a lot of characters get introduced, and there's only more so as the series progresses. Even killing off
Yes.
some characters doesn't change that.
We are quickly introduced to the 13 Court Guard Squad. That's right, there are 13 individual squads of Soul Reapers coming up, each
Hmm.
with various members. So when we get there, we'll get there. But
So
for now,
let's do a bit of a catch up.
the reason why it's referred to as the Rescue Arc or even the Rescue Rukia Arc is,
Well,
yeah,
if you remember last time, Rukia got taken away by her brother and Renji.
yeah.
It wasn't for a party, I promise you that.
The transferring your powers to a non-swiper is a offense. He's gonna
Yeah.
get executed for it.
Yeah, what you think, like, I can understand it being a problem, but you don't think execution would be first on the chopping board.
It kind of along the lines of I deputized someone and also gave them an AK-47.
Yeah,
That's definitely along the lines of maybe lose your badge, maybe get some time served. Execution seems a tad bit extreme.
that is until you realize that she didn't report back.
Mm-hmm.
She's pretty much AWOL. She pretty much
Mm-hmm.
trained someone outside their jurisdiction. She pretty
Mm-hmm.
much told secrets to an outsider. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not like her crimes are minor in some regards. I'll give him that. Like, I can somewhat see issues with everything she did,
Oh yeah,
but I still think execution's a bit extreme on these cases.
yes to speech.
I mean, take away her license to be a reaper,
Maybe take away her
jail
powers.
time.
Then again, she already lost her powers, so executing her seems kind of along the lines of. Well, we'll get into
Yeah,
the
we'll
means of
explain why that
execution.
is a bit excessive later. That comes down the road.
Yeah.
So let's get this started. Okay.
This is our rescue squad. There are two other people who joined, but they're so minor, unimportant. We had to cut some people from our recap.
Yeah, and we'll just if you enjoy them, fair point to you. We just
Oh yeah, I can see why someone might enjoy them in theory. One of them I actually kind of like, and the other one I just don't care. But if you like Ganju and I forget his name now, the medic who
oh
joins
yeah, I
them,
forgot about the medic. I was thinking about Ganju's sister.
she doesn't join them; she just helps
No,
them.
but I still liked her.
I liked her. I would wish she stuck around, but
I mean,
she is
she'll get talked about later on the plot. 'Cause she's actually somewhat plot relevant, but that's later down the road.
yeah. But regardless, this is our rescue squad. We have Uru Ishida on the left, the big guy, the honking sword's our main character, Ichigo Kodasaki. Little girl there, well, not really little girl, but the young lady there is Orihime. We got Chad in the background,
Well,
and the talking black cat
well, let's be
Yoruichi.
fair. Everyone looks like a child next to Chad. Jesus Christ, he
Yeah,
looks like the
Chad
one that
just
should be wielding Ichigo's sword.
he looks like he could dual wield those.
And to be fair, this is also a great example of just how extremely oversized Ichigo's sword is.
Yes,
But that makes more sense because it is now in what is referred to as its Shikai form.
yes, we know the name of it, Zangetsu.
We learned that just
Yep,
before this happened,
yep.
relatively.
But yes, we hinted about Yoruichi last episode, but this is Yoruichi, the incredibly deep voice talking cat with the sass.
Yeah.
Based
I'd also like to
Yoruichi.
mention that after Ichigo got his Shikai form, he's got this nice little red strap to carry it with.
Mm-hmm. Yoruichi is essentially their mentor right now,
Mm-hmm.
giving them advice and guiding them through things.
Richie is a very wise cat.
Mm-hmm. All right,
And Ichigo's
and
gonna catch that strap onto something. You
yeah, they
just know
should.
it.
Anyway,
So
and
our
here we
next little,
have.
and here's the thing, folks. Like I said, we're gonna get introduced to a lot of people very quickly.
Mhm.
So
And their individual unique powers.
yeah, and the last time we tried doing all of that, we went over 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to keep these to at least an hour and a half. Which you can shoot me now. I forgot to
Uh,
set the clock.
you also
So
forgot to turn your camera on for my sake, but whatever.
apologies. I'm also doing that to try and keep my fan from overheating as well.
Oh, then totally, that's fine.
Maybe next time I'll
So,
set up my phone for that or something. But moving
yeah,
on.
anyway. Yes, so these are the captains, or the Taicho is referred to in the Japanese. I prefer captain, but if you prefer Taicho, go ahead. This is not all of them, but these are the commanders of the 13
These are the
guard
majorities
squad.
get screen time mostly.
Yeah, these are the big guys. These are the creme de la creme.
Now, before you go asking, yes, Shinigami or Reapers, however you want to refer to them as, are much older than they appear. That's why you think Toshiro there, the child, is not actually a child.
He is still a child by their standards, though.
Yeah, but by our standards, he's older than anybody on Earth.
Not really. I think he's only a couple hundred. I think he's only like a little bit over 100. There are people older than him alive, I believe.
I thought it was a couple hundred, but I could be wrong about that.
I could be wrong too. I
Fair
actually
point. He
think
still technically would be still one of the oldest people on the planet.
yes. The next youngest person in the group there is almost at the front. It's one of my favorite characters. We'll talk about her later, but
Mm-hmm.
most of the people here are several hundred, if not a couple thousand years old. Especially the head captain. He is, I think, older than dirt.
He's got stories on dirt.
Yes. So each of these guys has a unit of, I think, several thousand Soul
Mm-hmm.
Reapers under them. We will meet some of them. Yes, we meet some of them. So it gets kind of ridiculous to keep track of. Some of them are recurring characters. Sometimes they're just, oh, hey, I remember you from season. Yeah,
Yeah.
you still exist.
But yeah, like I said, this is just another group we're introduced to, and there's other people we're introduced as the story goes on. So, like I said, we get introduced to a lot of people, some of their backstory, some of how this world works. It's well done. Like you get the gist of it without losing your way on it, but it's just a lot to cover
Yeah. So if
for.
anyone says, oh, you're not a true Bleach fan unless you remember so and so's third seat with what their Zanpakuto is, yeah, that's not very fun.
Shit, dude, I can't remember half the names of my family members. Screw that.
I'm not surprised by that. I'm not
Gee,
surprised by that at
thanks.
all. But yeah, some of
Now,
these guys are slightly more important than others. Some of them,
I will say this one: Toshiro gets a lot of attention.
He is a fan favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the Storypers are more
Right.
beloved than most things. These are the most
Um,
favorite group overall.
Kenpachi is a fan favorite for a lot of people. That's the big
Yes,
guy here on the far right.
and for some, one of my favorites is also a fan favorite. She's at the front, Soifan.
Mm-hmm.
She's pretty well liked, but not like super popular.
Okay,
Yeah,
could you remember for me for just a second? Crazy guy on the far left. The hell was his name?
Mayuri. Don't
Thank
ask
you.
me to remember his other name. Like
I'm
I
not
don't. I
asking to remember
remember.
his name. I just want to
Yeah,
know that because my God, how does he not whack himself when he walks?
yeah, I know. He's Mayuri, the guy on the far left, is legitimately. I hate Cone. I also hate Mayuri, and there's another guy we'll be introduced to in 2 seasons from now, maybe 1 season now, depending on how much we can combine together.
Mm-hmm.
That I don't like, but basically he's the anti Mayuri, on the
Oh,
enemy
that
team.
guy. Okay.
Yeah, I do not like him, and apparently he's going to be very important for very, 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 very down the road.
So basically, the division is counted up to 13 squads, each one
Yes.
with a role to play.
Yeah, we don't really find out what everyone's role is. For example, Mayuri, the guy, just like runs an organization. I do like the research and development organization. They're the ones that scan the area for hollows. They're the ones who create gadgets to help fight hollows and help locate people
I'll
and
give it.
whatnot.
Good.
Yeah, they're the tech guys. They don't actually go out in the field very often. They're the ones. They're the navigators. They're the computer operators. They're the ones saying hollow reported in zone 15.
I mean, I'll give it to them. They do a hell of a job.
Mm-hmm.
Toshio is part of the 10th division.
They're usually the one in charge of guarding the human world. They're
Mm-hmm.
the ones most proactive in sending agents of the Soul Society to the world. That's not the squad Ruki is from. They're from the 13th. That generally, I believe their role is quite similar. If not, they're the fill-in. Like, hey, squad needs a fill-in. Send someone to the 13th.
Yeah, it's a
They're
little
more.
confusing, and it's
Yeah,
not the main point of the show, so they kind of
yeah.
just let that slide. I
Yaku
do
is in charge.
know Squad 4 was the healers.
Yes, Squad 4 is led by Unohana. They're the healers. They
Mm-hmm.
go wherever they're needed. They're the healers. They're also the butt of the joke for other soldiers because they don't really know how to fight. And for a lot of soldiers, fighting is a big thing. That would be Kipachi, the guy on the far right. His is the 11th Squad. They only fight.
They're pretty much the muscles sit wherever they're needed.
Yeah, they're if you need men thrown at a problem, you go to Kipachi Squad.
And
Byaku,
Suifod is pretty much the assassins.
yeah, she runs the stealth force and the prison in a sense. Uh,
Now, what
we
makes
do know what Byakuya squad is in charge. His is basically the division in charge of upholding the laws and regulations of the Soul Society.
mm-hmm.
So that's why he went to collect Rukia, not just because Rukia is family, but it is part of his squad's duty to uphold laws and justice.
Mm-hmm.
We also know Tosin, the Squad 9
Oh, we did know
commander.
his.
Yes, they're in charge of media, apparently. They run the magazines and whatnot for the Soul Society. They are also the investigative corps. Like when there's a mystery going along, you send Squad 9 to solve it.
There's a
Generally.
joke with a blind man running that division, but I'm not gonna be the one to make it.
Yeah, let's not. Yeah. Yeah, Tosin's the little well, he looks little standing next to two giants on the right, and he is technically blind. Like completely visually blind.
Mm-hmm. He's the
So
one with the white visor next to those two, by the way.
yeah, if you're able-bodied, skilled enough, they'll hire you regardless of what your physical capabilities are. So equal opportunity employment.
Plus, it works well for his sword, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
Um, Next to him, the big guy, not the one that you actually see his face on, but in the basket is.
Oh, he's one of the ones I don't remember the name of, but
Oh,
he's a reason why he's wearing a basket.
mm-hmm. We'll get to that later.
Yeah, I do like him, but he is so underused. He's was referred to as the captain most likely. When you need to show a threat that's strong enough, he gets knocked out,
Mm.
which sucks for him.
And next to him
Is
is
Aizen from
mhm,
Squad 5.
the unassuming guy whose job I have no idea what he does.
We don't know what Squad 5 does. We also don't know what Squad 8 does. That's the guy with the fancy pink kimono and the straw hat. No idea what Shunsui Squad does.
Sits around getting drunk.
Well, that's what he does.
It'd be I wouldn't be surprised if his squad was in charge of the paperwork.
No, I feel like that's more Squad 1's job. Speaking of Squad 1, we should probably show off their captain. Captain Yamamoto, or he's referred to as the head captain, or general commander, or Soken Taito. I
Now,
don't remember the Japanese
without
part.
spoiling too much for this series, he is in a medium place for me. I love his design, I love his sword and his powers. He just makes really bad decisions a lot of the times.
Yeah, especially if you take in the movies and the filler, he basically comes across as old man yells at clouds.
I mean, at some points, like, there's some decisions he makes in the series I can agree with.
Yes,
That I'll
if you
talk about
can,
far later when we get down to that road.
there's a handful of canon decisions I'm like, that makes sense. And a handful of canon decisions that I'm like, that makes very little sense. And when you, like I said, you add in the filler in the movies, he basically just stands there poking the hornet's nest at worst.
I mean, to be fair, when it's a, I think what the division is when it's a actual military decision, it's a good one.
Yeah, generally,
When
but when it
it's
comes to
involving the general public and human society,
or
uh,
just individual people or individual soul reapers, he as squad one is the most important squad. It's the big bad that they're all the toughest guys are usually there, and he really shows off why it's the strongest squad. We
mm-hmm.
find out later, but he tends to forget people are not soldiers 24/7.
Now, to be fair, with a job like his, sometimes television like that happens.
Mhm.
And with some of the enemies that come across, it's not hard to see why, especially really far down the road with the issues he has to deal with sometimes.
No, which is
So,
why I try not to dislike him, but at the same time, I don't care for him. I don't actively want him removed. I just generally want him to. Well, let's go behind his back. Feels like a better idea than talking
yeah.
to him.
And he does make some really great decisions later down the road, too, that help the individual.
The other
So,
thing about good about him, he's never had a bad fight. Like every fight he's been involved with, I generally go like,
oh,
yeah, that was
God,
cool.
yes.
That was cool to
But we'll
watch.
talk about that when we actually get to my favorite one, but
Mm-hmm.
which unfortunately we won't be able to get to in the series until it comes out in DVD. But
They love you.
all right, let's
So
talk a
this is
little about the one that we didn't get to.
this is Captain Ukitake. He's Rukia's captain,
Mm-hmm.
and as you can see, he is none too pleased with Rukia's Rukia's brother Aokia.
I kind of consider him a polar opposite of Old Man Yamamoto.
Yes, Ukitake is the most personal of the Soul Society. I find he is the one that remembers each member of his squad as an individual before they're a soldier.
Now, once again, there's a side to that, and there's a bad side to that.
Mhm.
The
On
good
the plus
side
side,
is that individually he takes care of his unit.
and those under his squad generally flourish quite well.
Mm-hmm. The downside to that is,
He's very loose with how he handles things at times.
mm-hmm,
It's
which can
probably
often bite you in the ass.
why Rukia got away with so much shit for a while.
Yeah.
There's also another good reason why she was not so heavily monitored. He's not exactly physically well most times.
Let's just put
Well,
that out.
yeah. There, he suffers from what might as well be soul tuberculosis.
He's suffering from something because, good God.
Yeah, he's known to hack up a lot of blood at times. He's indisposed for a long, sometimes for weeks on end for his health. But he's also probably either the third or fourth strongest soul reaper.
Fair, his lieutenant. He has two lieutenants that handle a lot of the work.
Well, they're technically his third seats. He doesn't have a lieutenant. He lost his lieutenant. It's a very important backstory to Rukia, but we did not have time to get into it this time. We will have to talk about it next season, though, or the season after.
We'll get there when we get there. It's really
Yeah,
important then. I think that's a better point to talk about it.
yeah. Ukitake is one of my favorite characters
But he
from
is
the Soul
best
Side.
friends with Shuisui.
Shunsui, yes, this is Captain of Squad 8, Captain of Squad 13. These two were Yamamoto's top students back in the day. These are, like I said, they're either the second or the third or the fourth strongest soul reapers.
Yeah, they're definitely high
And
up there, especially
they're
when they work together.
yeah, when they work together, the head captain actually comments the most often, and it's heavily implied if the two of them went all out, the head captain couldn't handle the two of them together. Individually, he probably could hand either one of their asses.
Yeah, I believe it.
And Shinsui's also just a lot of fun.
Now, this is another interesting dynamic that we have here.
Yeah, like we said, every captain's supposed to have a lieutenant. This is the lieutenant to Squad 10. Rangiku Matsumoto. You will hear Matsumoto yelled a lot because behind her, her captain, he has to wrangle her more than anything else.
Yeah, she is a lazy alcoholic bum most of the time.
And yes, she is quite hefty.
And braless.
And yeah, there's a funny story behind this. People asked Kubo years later how she managed to not explode out of her top. Does she use tape, or does she use a special Soul Reaper Reishi power to hold her top in place? Kubo had always contended it to being tape, but when someone asked him that question, he basically just told them to their face, "I like your idea better. I can respect that."
Ah, I can too. Especially since it's believable.
Yes, she's also not afraid to use that chest for things.
Motivation.
Yeah. Now, she isn't
Bribery.
like sleeping around with people. She's not that kind of lady, but she is aware of what she has. Might as well use it to get her advantage out of work
Mm-hmm.
or whatnot. But these two, while they are very antagonistic at times to each other, she wants to lounge around and drink. He wants to, get paperwork done. He's actually very serious with his job. They've always got each other's backs. When something
Mm-hmm.
is actually important, these two will go almost the ends of the earth to defend each other. Like, you don't talk smack about Matsumoto, only Captain Hitsugaya does.
Mm-hmm. And
Vice
there's a
versa.
story behind that as well, which gets played into further
Yeah,
along.
these two are a good example of, oh my goodness gracious, everyone has so much backstory and lore. There's even more backstory and lore that kind of gets ignored and you really question it, but
Yeah, this is also one
we'll
of the
get
reasons why we had to cut out so much when we were doing this.
we'll get into that when we get to definitely two episodes from now.
Yeah. So, moving on, she does have a very interesting sword, which she has the Shikai, and this also demonstrates some of the sometimes rushed artwork for the show.
Well, her facial art looks really good. Me and Soul were commenting about how I don't think that's how thumbs or pinkies really work for
Yeah,
her left
it's
hand.
the way her left hand and her right hand look. It is just. She looks like
Also,
her right hand holding her sword is her left hand, the way the art looks.
I'm not also sure where her elbow is bending in the left shot, the left side of her body.
Well, I can see that. It's where her hand is bending that like that sometimes, and her
Yeah,
pinky
like
looking like a thumb. It's just the way they are. But her real thing is her right hand. It looks like her left hand is on her right arm, like she's holding that sword from the art style.
kind of yeah at times.
But it's still better than anything I could ever draw. So I'm not gonna.
No, no, they are doing hundreds of episodes in such a short time.
Mm-hmm. But
But
if you see it,
every
you see it. So
yeah,
I can't.
every lieutenant is expected to have their Zanpakuto's release date unlocked. Now, unlike Ichigo, they can turn their release state off. So she can have a normal katana anytime, or she can have these dust particles, which are heated ash, which she can manipulate and attack with people or block things with.
Now, there's actually a reason for that, but once again, that comes up later.
Mhm.
But for the most part, it has to do with, and I'll say this without revealing too much. Ichigo is a very special case, as clear that he's the main character of this show.
You'd expect the main character to be different or unique in special ways.
Mm-hmm.
Also, every lieutenant has a badge. They usually wear it on their left arm. She is dangling from the sash of her
Mm-hmm.
Shihakusho, as
I
they're
think that
called.
indicates her as a lieutenant and what squad she's from,
Yeah,
if I remember
the
correctly.
it shows a 10, which is the cross symbol, and then a flower. The flower is every squad has a flower symbol. Having that badge says, oh, that's lieutenant badge. Oh, the number is 10. The symbol is the 10. She's 10 lieutenant.
Yeah.
Or Fukutide shows, they refer to in Japanese,
Go
which
back. I'll gotta go back for 1 second. Let me just.
okay, go right
If you
ahead.
notice, the captains. Oh,
Yeah, they all wear a white jacket.
mm-hmm.
Well, Shunsui wears a pink one over his, but they all wear
Yeah.
a white jacket, stylized themselves. On the back is their number.
Right. And
So,
that indicates a captain class.
yeah,
Now let me just catch ourselves back up.
probably.
Now this is Kenpachi. You can't see her, but he's carrying his lieutenant on his shoulder. That little pink blob of hair.
No. Kipachi is obsessed with one thing and one thing only.
Fighting.
Yeah. He wants to fight a strong opponent.
Now,
Reason
he
why he's
doesn't
kicking
want to
the
spar, he wants to go to the death.
Yes, fights to death. The reason why he's taking a wall is he has no sense of direction, and his lieutenant has an even worse sense of direction, and he relies on her for where are we going. He gets frustrated and just decides to take shortcuts to
She
get
pretty
to
much just
fights.
picks whatever direction seems most fun to her.
Hmm.
Now
Like if
there.
she's the kind of person, if she sees a butterfly, she wants to follow the butterfly, so she'll just point that way, and he'll be like, "Oh, that must be where the fight is."
Mm-hmm.
In one of the OVAs, we won't really discuss. She gets him so lost they end up in a different part of Japan altogether because she thought it would be funny to chase a train.
I get to see Kenpachi doing that.
He does.
Now, how do we get to Soul Society? Because remember, we left Ichigo and the others in the human world.
Well,
Well,
it's the world of the dead. How are we going to send Chad, Orihime, Uryu, and a cat to the world of the dead?
well, we got a couple of sharp objects, or we can just take this handy gate.
Yeah, Kisuke is, well, on top of being a handsome and humble candy shop owner, he creates inventions all the time. And this is one that allows people to temporarily their living body becomes dead in a sense. They don't lose their body, but they act as if they are dead. They can cross over to the next world and
Mm-hmm.
go help Ichigo fight in the Soul Society.
Now, there is a whole thing of running to Soul Society through a barrier of sorts, like an
Where time
alternate
and space
dimension.
It's where time and space goes to die.
Yeah, literally. It's like, and then there's like this giant worm eating the leftovers. It's
Like
not
the Lang
important. It's just
it's
worth
like the
mentioning.
Langoliers, only if the Langoliers were terrifying.
Yeah.
Or is Langoliers? I don't remember.
Basically,
I,
the
I'm,
only real importance of this is that going through here kind of screws with time.
it'll come up later, but it's not that important. But
No, I think
if
it
you're
cuts
if
off like 2 days from their time when they run through here,
like
or they
that, yeah,
gain time. I forget which way it worked,
I forget too. It's confusing.
but in the overall story, it's not important.
Yeah.
No, dramatic landings, everyone.
Uh, the little bird-like things are part of Orihime's shield. She tried to catch them because they fell out of the sky onto the ground.
And the only one to actually manage to land gracefully, despite the one being putting out the shield, was Chad. He looks like he's an umpire saying safe.
Does that is what he's doing.
Safe.
He didn't quite do the dramatic hero landing, but this was before Iron Man, so we'll cut him some slack here.
And notice even the cat didn't even land gracefully.
I mean, I own a cat. I can tell you every now and then they do not land gracefully. Generally, they do. So,
And I can't tell
yeah,
who
this
I feel worse for landing which way they did, or you or Ichigo.
I kind of feel worse for each the more I look at it.
Well, you never know. Ryu could land her on his face and broke his glasses. And that's
I
not
think,
healthy for his spine.
well, Uryu brought spare Quincy uniforms. I would be surprised if he brought spare glasses.
Yeah, but I'm just looking at Ryu's spine. That's almost an L shape.
It is. But Ichigo also may have landed on his sword. Ever landed on your keys?
Okay, let's just call it a tie between those. One broke their back one way, one broke their back the other way.
Let's go with that.
This is the gatekeeper.
Yeah, obviously they couldn't land inside the heart of the Serete, or the
Yeah,
Soul
sure, let's not make
Society.
it easy.
So they have to fight their way in, and here's the guard.
Yeah, notice Ichigo's one-handing this huge bastard.
Notice that guy's one-handing that nice axe. Notice that guy is, I don't think Ichigo even comes up to his knee.
Yeah, and this is pretty much the end result. Ichigo is immensely strong compared to most standard people around here.
Hmm.
And he's aware of it too, because he could have done a lot worse damage.
Yeah, he could have. But he generally is not here to maim or kill. He's just here to
Mm-hmm.
rescue Rukia.
I think he's also here to show up Byakuga, but I think that's a personal grudge.
That's a personal. Well, he has more of a grudge with the Renji.
At the moment, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get on that one, folks. Oh, yeah, this is here for no reason. We just didn't want to show anybody that might be sus at all.
This is Gin Ichimaru, the last cat we haven't talked about or shown off, the captain of Squad 3. Um, reason why he's here is because he was late to the meeting because he was dealing with
Stuff and things.
stuff and things being actually Ichigo.
Yeah.
Because after being the gate guard, Ichigo convinces him to open the door. And then Gin kicks the crap out of everybody so they don't come in because you guard the gate. You don't open the gate. and you can see what. Well, we can go to the next image. I believe
Well,
it's.
actually, I just want to pause here for a second
Mm,
because this actually shows off one other thing that I think uh, is a little bit of a controversy with the fans and the show itself.
mm,
If you notice, Gin, Kenpachi, and the scientist guy,
Mayuri. Yeah.
Mayuri, each
Yeah.
have one sword and a sheath each.
Ah, yes. You want to talk about that?
Shunsui has two
He.
swords.
Mhm,
Now, as it was stated by the creator, so you can't really argue the point, the sheath is part of the Zanbakuto. So that raises a lot of questions.
mhm,
And it was later questioned about Ichigo and why he has no sheath in his Shikai form and past that.
mhm.
Now, if you also notice, when a lot of them release their sword, they lose their sheath as well.
Yeah.
So it's kind of an interesting thing because a lot of people question about how that works for dual blades and everything like that.
According to the career, there's no true dual bladed Zanpakutos, which
Mm-hmm.
is very weird to me.
Well, I don't think that's what he intended. It's just simply saying that the sheath is part of the sword.
Yeah, it's one of the things where he's had to answer some questions after the series is over, and it leaves us either satisfied or scratching our heads, going, "What?"
So the way I see it is the sheath just becomes part of the Shikai and Bankai. And then when you
Mhm.
revert back normal, it just reverts back to the sheaths. Is the
A
way
good
I always
example of
saw it.
that. A good example of that will be shown later, actually,
Mm-hmm.
with one of Ichigo's better first fights of the season.
Yes. So now going on.
This is what Gin did to the Guardian. He almost severed his arm with barely a strike.
Mm-hmm.
And despite the fact he was halting their progress, Orihime's first instinct is to heal him afterwards.
To be fair, he was just doing his job. He's got no idea what the hell's going on. He's the bottom man in all this.
Yeah, he really is.
Plus,
He's
he's a
not
good
even.
guy. You see all these wandering spirits right here, which are dead people? He's friends with them.
He's been trying to take care of them.
So once they realize he's a good guy in general, it's like, yeah, I'll help this guy.
Yeah, it's also just Orihime's general now. If you're not trying to actively kill her, she will heal you.
Mm-hmm.
It's just how nice she is, and that's one of the reasons why I end up liking her.
Yeah, like I said, she's not my most hated character. This is one of her traits that I do
Yeah,
appreciate. Her timing could use a little work, but
yeah, I can't argue that.
now to pick up the pace a little bit, we might have an issue in Soul Society.
Yeah, the captain of Squad 5 is dead.
Now, I
This
will.
happens at the same time as Ichigo's gang showing up, so obviously some people immediately suspect them.
Mm-hmm. Or they
But
suspect other things going on inside Soul
yeah,
Society that you can watch the show for.
it's a decent mystery, which we will unfortunately have to spoil. So if you like a murder mystery, that might be a good place to stop.
But
But
I
we
will
won't
point
spoil.
this out that I noticed when
Cool.
we found this picture.
Yeah, we don't really have our memories are not 100% on this because it has been a while and it is hundreds of episodes and hundreds of manga chapters,
But if you look at his sheath sword, it's the same handle as what stabbed into him.
or at least extremely similar enough where you think it's the same sword. We don't remember if that was a plot point or not.
Now, the only reason we don't remember for sure is because it could have gone either way with the way this operates.
Yes. It's
Because
either it's either the murderer screwing with the audience or screwing with the Soul Reapers or literally a coloring error from the
because I
anime.
swear I remember a line about them saying he was stabbed with his own sword. I think the sword in the sheath is a.
I don't remember that line, but here's the thing. If it happened, I will admit I was wrong. Every now and then Soul can remember something I can't.
Yeah,
It
I'm
happens.
weird like that, but.
It's rare.
So, moving on. Let's go to Irio's new battle costume.
This is his interpretation of a traditional Quincy uniform. I prefer this uniform over what we see as the true Quincy uniform later on.
I do like the bow. I'm a sucker for a good bow.
Yes, you may notice he's no longer using an energy bow. It's because the special glove he's wearing is restricting his abilities, so the bow he's making is much more difficult, so it's much more complicated, but his powers are much greater.
Well, I think it's also because I just kind of like the idea of having an actual physical bow rather than an energy bow. Because if you have an energy bow, why don't you just shoot the energy? I just don't understand that part.
He does kind of do that later on when he gets a different energy bow.
Well, no, I'm just saying, like, it's just one of those things that always was a nuance to me.
They're totally fair to like. I really do like this is probably my favorite design for a review.
Mm. So, as with most prominence, it does come with a cool effects once he breaks it.
Yeah, because the glove is basically restricting his ability to absorb energy, removing it, well, it's like the Goku's weighted clothing. All of a sudden, you have complete free movement and you're far later.
Mm-hmm.
He can just absorb everything. And because he's in the world of the dead, everything is made of spiritual power. There's no matter left.
The bricks, the air, the tree over there.
Mhm. Even his targets,
Mm-hmm.
but they're more complicated. This is his fight with Mayuri. Mayuri basically forces Uryu way to the back of the wall with poisons and toxins and paralysis. And that giant creepy baby is what's referred to as a Bankai. We'll explain those better, but essentially it's going Super Saiyan 2, for lack of better words.
Mm-hmm. Now, the other thing I liked about this fight is that Uryu was poisoned to a point where he couldn't move his body. So instead, he used kind of like Retsu or spirit energy strings to make his
Mhm.
body move.
It's a
So,
Quincy technique. Well, what do you use to fire arrow with a bow?
a string,
So if you can create a string out of nothing, that means you can create many strings out of nothing.
pretty much.
And which means even though he's technically paralyzed at this point, he is puppeting himself with his control of spirit strings
Mm-hmm.
to move at incredible speeds and abilities. This is an incredibly advanced Quincy technique, showing off that Uryu is a genius of Quincy's,
Mm-hmm.
which tends to get forgotten a lot by people. But essentially, he's got no form. He's got a basic formal training from his dead grandpa. His grandpa died when he was very young, and he's able to fight a captain, a technically weaker captain. Mayuri's probably not in the top 10. In
No,
fact,
but he is a genius and he uses his device
he
as well. I give him that.
he fights dirty. He makes up for his weaker power by fighting dirty because that giant baby vomits poison.
Yeah, in a life or death battles like the ones that are going here, I will not look down on that. I can't.
No, no.
I don't have to
So
like the guy, but yeah, you can save my ass.
yeah, but yeah. So this is the first major hurdle the group experiences is they start bumping into captains, and Uri was the first one to beat a captain.
Too bad he passed out from the poison.
Well, no, he doesn't pass out from the poison. He gets an antidote for the poison because of his general nice nature. He doesn't like Soul Reapers. Mayuri kicks the crap out of his lieutenant for failing to pin Uryu down properly.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So he gets so mad he breaks his bow to reach this superpower to fight off Mayuri, and for his kindness, he's rewarded with the antidote. There's also one problem though with this form. His body burns out from it,
Mm-hmm.
leaving him completely powerless after destroying a captain. He fails to even kill Mayuri. Mayuri cheats his way out of with a bullshit power that really would come into handy later on, but I don't quite understand it. That's the reason
Yeah.
why I don't like Mayuri. Mayuri basically feels to me like, no, I have an answer for everything kind of kid.
At the same point, I do like his philosophy on what science is.
Yes, I will agree with his philosophy. I don't like his character. I don't like how he treats his underlings. I don't like how he treats other people.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone to Mayuri is an experiment.
All right, well, let's move on
And
because we're.
uh, I forgot one other thing about Mayuri.
Mm-hmm.
He's an expert on Quincy's because he's dissected Quincy's. Uryu's grandfather had a protection group of Soypers around him. Mayuri told them not to save him when Hollows attacked, so he could take Uryu's grandfather to experiment on him. Then he shows Uryu the photo of what remains of his grandfather's soul.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. They really wanted you to think the Soypers were the bad guys, and Mayuri never was not a bad guy. Might have been like he's basically you're sitting next to the mad doctor who basically like I can't wait till you die so I can see what your organs look like.
Right, but let's move on a little bit.
Mhm. More happy images.
Now, for
This,
those of us that might remember, we mentioned Chad fought a Hollow.
mm-hmm.
The
This
Hollow
is
was chasing this young boy whose soul spirit was inside of a bird. When
Chad
that
promised.
segment ended, he promised when Chad died, he would give him a piggyback ride in Soul Society. It's good to know
He's
some
not
people keep their
dead.
promises.
He's not dead, but he's like, well, I'm here. I might as well fulfill it. And that's another reason why the two of us really like Chad. When Chad makes a promise, he keeps that promise or dies trying.
He's going to need a bigger gold chain sooner or later for that necklace. His neck is any bigger. He's gonna snap that thing.
Yeah, yeah. But Chad also had some good training under Yoruichi.
Now I forget what he calls his fist,
Yes, so do I. It's
but those are not holes behind him on the ground. Those are bodies,
yeah, he's been
unconscious
knocking.
bodies.
Yeah, he's not killing. He's not here to kill. He's here to help
No.
Ichigo save Rukia. So he's knocking down walls, knocking down sword prisoners' way. Because at one point, Uryu and Ichigo gets separated from Uryu and Chad and Orihime, and they all go their separate ways. So Uryu stays with Orihime. Chad goes completely on his own, and Chad basically, well, I guess gonna go straight line for where Rukia is, and he straight lines it by knocking down walls.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
He's
you
learned,
know what? I also remember this was during the time Ichigo was fighting Kenpachi.
yeah, he was in a much more of a rush because he could sense Ichigo was in danger,
Mm-hmm.
so he tries to speed things up. And
We'll get to that fight
yeah,
in a moment, folks. But it's kind of hard
it's
to go back and forth with everything.
yeah,
But I also would like to point out once again, Chad is left-handed,
hmm
so he's doing all this powerful punching with his right hand. And if you understand the basic concepts of boxing, that's pretty
it
dangerous.
is. You don't even understand that much about boxing. Just try and like do complicated things with your non-dominant hand. Now imagine you can shoot energy beams out of your non-dominant hand. Your aim will be crap, your control will be crap, and yet he is knocking people out, not killing.
But I do say sometimes your non-dominant hand usually is stronger from that, but it's usually a give or take situation.
Most people would say control, like control. He's firing beams. I wouldn't imagine he has much more. His control would be less.
Mm-hmm. Now, Chad gets to fight Shusui.
We already said Sunzue is probably the second strongest Soul Reaper.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing. Shunsui also realized that Chad wasn't killing anybody and was here to save Rukia. Like, and he's pretty much just offering Chad a drink until this situation was resolved. He had no
Yeah,
intention of fighting.
he asks a very important question. Who is Rukia to you? And Chad just says, nobody. Rukia is important to Ichigo. And I promised Ichigo I'd go to the ends of the world for him. And I've literally gone to the end of life for him. So
Yeah,
Shunsui realizes I can't talk you down. And while your motives at first seem very flimsy, your true motives, this friend Ichigo, I'm sorry for disrespecting you by not taking you seriously.
so I'm gonna take you seriously.
Yeah,
Like, as
he,
powerful as Chad was, and as much growth as he's shown in such a short amount of time, Shunsui just outclasses him in every way, even without releasing his swords.
it's
He unsheathed them, yes.
yes, but he didn't even need to go to a Shikai state.
No,
In
he
fact,
he.
he defeats him with a special technique that involves just poking with two fingers.
Mm-hmm. I mean, to
But
be fair, Chad gave it a valiant effort, but this was
yeah,
never going to go his way.
no, he basically it, Chad might as well be a turtle trying to fight an armored tank.
Yeah. I mean, to be
Mm,
fair, Shisui had training under Old Man Yamamoto.
he's thousands of years old.
Mm-hmm. And he's been in more life or death situations.
Yeah,
The cards were stacked against Chad from the start on this one.
yeah, that's the problem with Chad. He keeps meeting people later on in the series who are basically on the lines of he doesn't get to fights that slowly ramp his way up. He goes straight from fighting B class people to fighting final bosses in a sense.
Like, you want to give him like a Yurio fight just to let him really show off, and it only really happens like once in the
And
either
then
the next arc or the arc after that.
yeah, it's not great for poor Chad.
No.
But the thing about Chad is he still tries. Like he takes this. Like, he's like, I know I'm not going to win, but if I can like do anything, at least that might help the gang.
And if he thinks he has to win, he'll give it everything he has. He does not hold back.
No, and people like to think, oh, maybe Chad's an idiot. No, no, he's just maybe stubborn might be the best word for
He's
it.
the silent, gentle giant. He's it's just that when his determination factor set on, it is determination out the yin yang.
Yeah, and I will. You gotta love Chad for that.
Mm-hmm. So then we got Ichigo's first big fight.
Yeah, this is Ikaku Madarare, third seat of Squad 11.
Now let us be clear on something. Squad 11 was all the fighters. So a Squad 3 could be as powerful as some lieutenants in some respects.
Yeah, third seat could be a squad. Third Madarame is basically as strong as some lieutenants.
Mm-hmm.
He might even class near some weaker captains.
Now, you might notice that he's not already wielding a sword in this scene.
Extend. Oh, Sukimaru!
He is using his Shikai form, which basically he taps the end of his sheath to the bottom of his sword, and it fuses into a three-section staff with a
Yeah,
blade at one end.
at first it just appears to be a spear.
Mm-hmm.
But later on, the two sections split off into the chains, which, yeah, catches Ichigo completely off guard. This is the first real sword fight we get, for lack of better terms.
Now, there are three things I want to point out about this scene. First was Ikaku was impressed about Ichigo's skill and ability, and he asked Ichigo about his master, who trained him. Ichigo's response at this time was that he only trained with under Kiseki for like a week, I think it was,
Yeah.
give or take.
Mhm.
Ikaku instantly recognized that name and took Ichigo with a much more serious tone. So that already tells us there's more to Kiseki than we already knew.
Yeah.
Give and take, he had a backdoor to Soul Society. He can
Yeah.
news about Soul Reapers. He can train Ichigo to fight.
He has a Zanpakuto with a release.
Mm-hmm. Second thing, this scene also really good for foreshadowing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you've been up with the show, this Ichigo's arm being wrapped in the bandages is what I mean by foreshadowing. Now, foreshadowing comes in two varieties, in my opinion: intentional and unintentional. This show does both really well, and that's why I think when this show does foreshadowing, it just flows well with it.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that's done intentionally, you can instantly go back, look back, and see and remember that this was foreshadowing, which will come up later. Unintentional, you can rewatch a show and say, "Huh," like I did. I didn't think about this until I rewatched it. Like this could be unintentional foreshadowing for later events about how the swords work.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the other thing is like this shows off that not all Soul Reapers are villains.
No. It does, however, show off that not all Sawyers will take their job seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Like many in Squad 11, you would not expect to be defenders of the weak.
Yeah, you
They might
see, oh god,
they, they might end up defending the weak, but only if something incredibly worth fighting is attacking the weak. They're also not known for teamwork. Like if a Squad 11 guy gets into a fight, it's a one-on-one fight. Nobody backs you up.
yeah, they got a weird honor code on that.
Yeah. And a lot of the more powerful members of the squad believe in fighting to the death and no use of special powers. If your weapon is a special like a physical thing, it's cool. If your weapon shoots a beam, you're not really welcome in Squad 11.
Now,
So they
here's
don't
the
even
other thing: if you get a chance, look up Ikaku's Lucky Lucky dance.
yes, please do. Also mentioned last time, Ikaku was in the dub done by Vic Mignogna, so if Ikaku returns for any voice lines in the Thousand Year Bloodborne dub, he's probably going to be revoiced. Regardless,
Okay.
this is a really good fight,
Mm-hmm.
and this is when the spear first splits apart. But we wanted to show that other one first because it shows Ikaku.
Yeah,
So
and
for those
it's
of you who are wondering, oh, these images are so out of order, it's annoying. We're doing it just to annoy you, and not because it just flows better for us.
entirely,
Yeah,
but it shows that it Ichigo was not prepared for a alternating weapon. Is one
yeah,
of his starting weaknesses. He had a slower time reacting to what he can expect because he was thinking this was just a spear.
yeah. Which he immediately figured out how to fight a spear.
Mm-hmm.
And he was right. He knew how to fight a spear, but when it splits apart, it catches him pretty much off guard, and he has to learn the fight, this
Mm-hmm.
weapon. And this is what really shows you that Ichigo has fight awareness.
See, fight awareness is not going to automatically kick in if you're not aware of something.
No, he is not a genius, but he is able to learn on the fly very well.
Mm-hmm. Which is one of the reasons I like Ichigo.
Mm-hmm. I do hope this is properly being recorded though, because I am not seeing our icons pop up in the corners.
Oh, you're just seeing from the windows where I'm at. It's I checked it. It's doing fine.
Okay, sorry.
No,
That's
that's fine. I just to save power. I think this is actually
okay. If that's how it's going to be, otherwise we might have to re-record this.
okay. Now we have after Ichigo defeats
Eek.
Ikaku, they run into Renji, and this goes about as well as you're going to think for a conversation. That was never going to
Yeah,
happen.
yeah, it's a rematch. An actual, well, not really a rematch, more of an actual fight for the first time.
Hmm. I don't have a lot of pictures for this fight scene, but I do like when Renji activates his Shikai and Ichigo starts losing, and he
Mm,
remembers the training he had under Kiseki
hmm
about how to defend someone, and how to attack. When you defend someone, you don't let them get cut. When you defend yourself, you don't let yourself get cut. When you attack, you kill,
Yep.
which
And
is
while Ichigo doesn't like the idea of killing, he has the follow through for it.
mm-hmm.
Although he has a poor track record of killing anybody who can talk,
He's killed a few people.
but that's shows for you. Like you don't want to cut down your cast if you start liking the characters you start writing.
Well, I think it's more the fact that if you're not willing to cut him down at this point, they're going to cut you down first.
Yeah. No,
They're
I'm just saying for that philosophy, Ichigo is not very good at actually follow through with murder, and it should bite him in the butt, but he ends up making too many friends along the way.
Well, I think that's actually why it works out better for him. It hardens him to the point that he's able to stay aware of himself, but it never turns into a bloodthirsty like Kenpachi.
No,
Like
you're
he
not wrong about
prepares
that.
himself for what has to be done, but just because it has to be done doesn't mean it's the only option.
Mm,
So I know that sounded weird, but that sounded better in my head. But
mm,
I think what Ichigo's main problem was that he was holding himself back from not having. Basically, the point was that he doesn't have any real conviction as a blade.
no.
And because the Zombie toes are a reflection of the Soul Reaper, if the blade is afraid of something,
Well, if
because you
you're
have to
afraid
think
of
with this, yeah, you have to think with the form of what the of sword actually is. It's a killing instrument. So if you don't want to cut somebody, why should the sword want to cut somebody in this world?
mm,
And if you're using your sword to protect someone, well, don't let them get hurt. It's more of a mind over matter thing with that. And after Ichigo wins, we learned that Renji and Rukia grew up in the slums of Soul Society.
really bad the slums. See, when most people die, they're so spiritually weak that they just exist for a few years and then cross back over to the world of living. If you're strong enough, you can develop hunger. And since most people don't need food, food is a rare commodity in some areas of the Soul Society.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a bunch of starving kids still growing up, the Soul Society actually is not what I would describe as a paradise.
I mean,
In fact,
granted, it's not hell, but
actually, at some parts I would describe as hell because some parts are so turmoil, so full of chaos that people are just fighting and murdering each other constantly.
well, what I mean by hell is not intentionally trying to torture you.
Oh yes, that I'll agree with.
Yeah, but just to say that it's not hell doesn't mean it's paradise. I didn't mean to make that conclusion
Yeah,
to it, but it's
which is one of my problems with Rukia singing the praises of the Soul Society is in the first season. I don't know why. I think maybe she got taken in by propaganda and kind of forgot a few
yeah,
things.
because remember what she was found out with Renji, and they joined the Reaper Academy. I think he still needs some work on that. Then
Yeah, that's Renji trying to learn Keto or the magic of the series. He overdid it for one spell, and it kind of
backfired.
yeah. But
But
yeah, you can't just become a swordsman. You have to go to special classes. There are exceptions, but those exceptions are scary.
to be fair, Toshigera was an
Oh, Toshiro
exception.
went through the academy. He just went through the academy on. speed.
Yeah, no, I'm saying he still went, but he was still an exception in some cases.
No, what I mean by some nobles immediately become Sword and there's one way to become a captain without having
Ah,
to do any training. We'll get to
so
that guy in a second.
yeah. So we also learned that Renji might have had ulterior motives for becoming a Soul Reaper.
Hmm.
I can't tell what they were, but
She is cute, though,
yeah.
even when she's yelling at him for being an idiot.
I also like to notice that swear I think they're like carrying iPads with them.
No, that's just her textbooks.
I know, but they look like so thin they're like iPads. I've seen like textbook in schools like Jesus Christ.
Maybe that's just their notebooks.
Now we get to one of my favorite fights in this series.
The one other exception to become okay to become a captain, you must know the Bankai, and you must have several years of service. You must be extremely strong, unless you are a Kenpachi. Kenpachi is not just a name; it's a title. This is Zaraki Kenpachi or Kenpachi Zaraki.
Mm-hmm.
He got to be captain of Squad 11 by having a duel to the death with the previous Kenpachi, taking his title. Kenpachi means strongest Soul Reaper.
Now, for those of you that actually know this story, we'll get to that later
Mm-hmm.
because that's kind of a, I guess what do you call those?
Spoiler.
Well, not a spoiler, but also kind of it's where the story kind of contradicts itself.
Oh, retcon
Yes. So
or
we'll
plot
get to
hole.
that later.
Yeah.
But yeah, he pretty much was so powerful he pretty much killed the previous Kenpachi and just took over.
Without even knowing his Shikai.
Mm-hmm. This man cannot release the sword.
This man, however, can fight,
Yeah.
and nobody fights
In
quite
fact,
like
it's so
Kenpachi.
terrifying at first when Ichigo tried to cut him, he couldn't.
Yeah, that image we may have used in the preview was Ichigo feeling Kenpachi's gaze upon him.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
eventually Ichigo gets himself together and manages to land a cut. Kenpachi smiles at this.
Well, at first he has no reaction to it. I mean, look at that face.
Well, to be fair, it's a split second, so I don't think he realized it happened just yet.
Yeah, it's been a while since anyone could cut Kenpachi.
But yeah, he does eventually get around to smiling.
Much later in the fight, Soul just really wanted to use this image as soon as he could because, Soul, how much do you like Kenpachi?
Oh, I will note. See if I can get a better picture of him. Okay, you can't even see him. They're like really small, but on the ends of his hair spikes, he's got little bells tied to them, so that
There's
people
some
can
people
hear
could,
him.
yeah, it's to give people every. Kenpachi is not one of my favorite characters, but I do like to refer to something as Kenpachiing when. If you're in a video game, for example, you're like, you know what, this is going too easy. Let me handicap myself to give the computer a better advantage. That's what Kenpachi's all about. He's so desperate for a good fight that, well, that eye patch is more than to just give him a blind spot. It's to nullify some of his power. It's an absorber. So he's
Mm-hmm.
weaker with the eye patch on, blind on one side. He has bells on his head so people will notice him. And he always starts every fight basically off by showing off his pecs and going, all right, you get first shot. Come on, first blow him.
Yeah,
Kenpachi's basically
and
what
it kind of
happens.
goes like this for Ichigo.
Kenpachi's basically what happens if Vegeta states Super Vegeta levels of cocky.
Mm-hmm. I'd also like to notice the state of Kenpachi's sword as it pokes through Ichigo's. That is a sword
It's
meant to tear a person apart.
also chipped and like terribly poor condition because he
Yeah,
doesn't care. He doesn't care for his Zappa doll. He cares for fighting.
because he cannot commune with his sword. He has never heard it.
We don't know if one led to the other, but yeah, he can't hear his sword, so he doesn't take the best care of it.
Which is also somewhat retconned later on in the show. We'll talk about that
Well,
later.
not so much retconned as poorly foreshadowed, I think.
Depends how you look at it.
Yes. But when Ichigo was scared, he tried to bluff. He was so scared his sword might as well have been wet tissue paper.
Mm-hmm. And
Which,
Zanpakuto just kind of like, boop, hey, that's your heart or lung. I don't care. So yeah, we're losing.
yep,
And so Kenpachi just turns to walk away because this fight was boring.
yep.
Now, interestingly enough, this is where the episode ended as Kenpachi walks away and Zangetsu starts walking towards Ichigo.
I thought I had that image found, but I don't know for sure.
No, we didn't, but
Yeah.
Foreshadowing, just because
Something
I wanted to
blocked.
show this off.
Something blocked most of the stab.
Yeah.
This
Meet
fella,
Inner Ichigo.
referred to also as Hollow Ichigo.
Now, you remember previously when we showed off Ichigo wearing that mask in episode 1 for this? When he was wearing the mask in his Reaper uniform. Ichigo has the unique issue of having a hollow living inside of his inner world. And has his own Zangetsu
Mhm.
that he wields like a goddamn maniac.
So what basically happens is while Ichigo is lying basically dead on the ground, he manifests Old Man Zangetsu, who basically says, "I can give you the power to beat this fellow, beat him, but you must pass the test." That test is to face this lovely chap who laughs and screams about and decides to fight like a goddamn madman.
Yeah, and he's also one of my favorite characters in the show.
I wonder why.
Now, if you watch this guy, I want to make one thing very clear when you listen to him. He never once, despite his maniacal laughing and trying to take over everything, he has never lied throughout this entire show.
Nope.
Now, that's not to say something's been retconned or changed, but at the time
And
when
it's
he speaks, when this was released, he has not once lied.
and it doesn't also mean he doesn't have words that have double meanings.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of one of the trickier things and why the foreshadowing works really well.
Yeah.
But has he ever outright lied to Ichigo?
Not to our knowledge.
No. And there's reasons for that that'll come up far later.
Mhm.
So, yeah, they're sparring, and please note Ichigo's sword. He does not have Zangetsu in this inner world.
Nope. Yeah, this inner world is how Ichigo's soul reflects himself. It's a side scraper on its side. Well, no, the skyscraper is standing up, but you're standing on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
It's symbolic, but if you ask me what it actually means, I could not tell you. I can tell you what his inner world looks like later and what that symbolizes. I understand that, but this symbolism I don't quite
I honestly think this
fully
was just
get.
meant to look cool and interesting compared to everything else, and it works.
It works.
And you'll also notice that Hollow Ichigo does not look like a regular Hollow,
Mm-mm.
but a reverse of everything Ichigo has on right now.
Hmm.
Foreshadowing,
Yeah,
people. Foreshadowing.
yeah. His design gets better when he doesn't have the weird
Yeah,
black
let's just bring that back
lips.
up for a second.
That's not his teeth. That's his lips.
Yeah,
It's like
the
like
upper
he's
row
wearing.
almost looks like his gums or his teeth, but
Yeah,
when you look at his bottom, you notice that they're supposed to be his lips. That
it
got
really looks.
altered in later on, and
It
that
looks
was a
like
good
he just.
decision.
It looks like he decided to rather than put on a little bit of lipstick, he decided to eat a lipstick.
Yeah, but I do like the black and yellow eyes. They're very contrasting to the rest of them.
Hmm. They really
Um,
stand out, and
his
that's what really
solid
makes it.
white skin and hair,
Yep,
and the opposing Reaper uniform.
yep,
I mean, they could have done like so many other things when they called him like Inner Ichigo, Hollow Ichigo. They could have done so many other things, but I
yep,
think this was the better contrast for that to show everything that he's supposed to be.
yep,
And he is all about, as he keeps telling Ichigo, if you cannot be the king of this world, I will take over.
yep. We'll get more into that when
Mm-hmm.
we the next time they fight. Shock and surprise. You don't just beat your
Inner
inner
demons.
demons once. Yeah,
And
but after.
I will say this one for further reference: Ichigo has a lot of inner demons.
Yeah, it really does.
So after winning his fight and obtaining the true power of Zangetsu for a moment,
Yeah,
now
Ichigo stands up as strong as a captain.
yes. Now, there's a lot of things going on behind this image.
Yeah,
A lot of it foreshadowing, a lot of it, I think, still under question about what was going on specifically, because I don't know if we ever got direct answers.
we probably did, but I don't know everything Kubo's ever written. I will say one thing though,
Mm-hmm.
it's fucking badass.
Because here's the thing: one of three things is going on here,
Or all three things are going on here.
possibly. Number one, he's just releasing more power by communing with the sword. Possibility that happens in this world.
Hmm.
He's absorbing energy by means of another people. I don't
Hmm.
want to say too much for spoilers.
You might have
Or
already.
He's absorbing power like another race in this series, or all three. So
But it also could just be described as plot armor.
yeah, we're still.
But it looks pretty sweet, and it leads to some the rematch with Kenpachi being
Mm-hmm.
much better and fun for Kenpachi.
Oh yeah,
That's where
so
Kenpachi
much
ends up
fun.
losing
He
to
decides to
iPad.
join them.
Yep,
Orihime,
that's
you heal all the right people.
yeah, that's Orihime. She's currently disguising herself as a Soul Reaper to sneak by.
I mean, just look how happy he is that he knows Ichigo now.
Plus, he gets to fight all the other captains.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that was a hard sell.
No, no, it was not. This is him. This is him fighting two captains basically at the same time.
Yeah,
Kamamine, I think his name is.
something like that. Something with a K and I, but I can't remember the rest of it.
Yeah, but yeah, he's best friends with Tosin.
So I don't think we have a picture for that one because there was no proper picture we could find for it. But
He's a
Tosin
dog.
basically, I was gonna say that one, but yeah, he's basically a dog person.
He's technically a werewolf.
Yeah, Tosin's Bankai, he reveals, pretty much puts you in a dome and blocks out
Mm-hmm.
all your senses. Like you
Yep,
can't
you're
feel, taste, hear, see, nada.
the only thing you can feel is Tosin's blade stabbing into you.
Yeah, the moment that blade hits you, you get your senses back.
Well, no, you just get your sense of feel. Like you get your sense of, oh, yeah, I got stabbed. Oh, where did that come from? Well, because he's fighting Kenpachi, he keeps stabbing Kenpachi, and Kenpachi eventually just grabs his arm when he gets stabbed. Goes, aha! I knew you'd have to stab me again, so I waited before I could so I could grab you. And then Kenpachi one shots him.
Yeah, Tosin was just so unaware
And,
that this would possibly work.
yeah,
He was just caught completely by surprise.
and when Kenpachi was going to finish him, Kalamine threw himself in the way of it,
Is
getting
it
his helmet
Kawamina or
damaged.
Kawamoro?
I don't remember. Like
I,
I said, he's so unimportant to me. I don't remember
yeah.
him.
So this brings us catching up to Ichigo now trying to
Well,
gain more
this,
power.
yeah, after his fight with Kenpachi, he gets dragged away to safety by Yoruichi, who gives him a few stern words and explains about the mask saving his life.
Mm-hmm. And
Yoruichi,
also reveals a big secret.
that's Yoruichi's true form.
He was a man all along. Wait,
Uh,
wrong series.
you were trying, you wanted to make a Samus was a girl joke, and you said he was a man all along. So,
But no,
please,
she goes on to explaining more about Soul Reapers and their connections with their swords.
yes.
Now, all these are legit weapons except for one of them. Can you find the non-legit weapon?
Is it the Keyblade?
What? No, you can totally kill someone with a key.
Oh, yeah, but Keyblades aren't even sharp.
One of them is.
Nah, I don't know. I couldn't care for the series.
Yeah, fair enough. But basically, this also ties in with Ichigo's training. Now, once
Yeah,
again, unfortunately, we couldn't find a good picture for it.
I mean, we could. We just did not have time for it.
Yeah, but basically, she stabs Ichigo's sword into a doll, essentially.
Yeah, into a large white mannequin. She is give Ichigo finds out that after his bursting into the Solar Society, Aizen's death, all this chaos, Rukia's execution has been pushed from a week from now to 3 days. He has 3 days to become strong enough to rescue Rukia, because he's going to keep bumping into people as strong as Kenpachi, or stronger, or just in his way. The only way to match these captains now is with Bankai. Bankai is said to take at least 10 years to learn after you learn how to manifest your Zanpakuto in the physical world. To learn your Shikai, you must speak inward. Speak with your soul, speak with your sword, commune, agree. Your Bankai, you must force them into your world, then beat the crap out of them.
You have to get your sword to submit to you.
Mm-hmm. So Kisuke invented a device years ago to force that without you having to learn how to meditate and bring it into the real world, because he did not have the patience. With this, Kisuke learned Bankai in 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
They have
Now,
3 days to rescue Rukia. Time to get Ichigo through some intensive training.
so upon stabbing the doll, Old Man Zangetsu is what he's usually called.
Yeah, at least by Ichigo.
Yeah, and I can understand why. I mean, he's got a mustache. He's clearly older than Ichigo, appearance
Yeah,
wise.
and is older and wiser in terms of how he presents himself.
Mm-hmm. And pretty much fills the arena with a bunch of awkwardly shaped Zangetsus.
Yeah, and the training is find the real Zangetsu and defeat me with it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of
Pretty,
these swords are, I want to say, tinfoil level of strength.
I would say a little higher because some of them actually do manage to block.
Yes,
But basically, the point is that Ichigo has to find the real Zangetsu and defeat Zangetsu.
yeah, he is doing this almost nonstop for 3 days. They do take little breaks so each goes in, eat, sleep, and repair a few major
I'd also like
damages.
to point out Ichigo has barely had time to properly heal because Orihime has not been around him to heal his ass.
Yoruichi's basically using a hot spring with healing properties we find out much later is actually almost divine, but it's still not as good as Orihime's healing or the actual hot spring. It's Kisuke's attempt at copying this magic hot spring.
Yeah.
Which again, Kisuke is just showing off that anything you can do, I can also do. Not quite better, but I can still do it, so that's still pretty impressive.
And with less supplies. Screw you.
Pretty much, yeah. And this is a hidden bunker that Yoruichi and Kisuke have in the middle of the Soul Society that no one's found for the years and years Kisuke has not been in the Soul Society. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's Kisuke's ability to hide things or Yoruichi's master of stealth, because we find out Yoruichi was captain of Squad 2, so she's a master of stealth and speed. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, she's referred to as Flash Step Goddess or Flash Step Yoruichi. She is the fastest character in the show, barring people with divine powers.
Yeah, there's only like a handful that actually outstrip her in speed.
And even then, they're usually caught off guard by her responses to it.
Yeah, especially when she really goes all out.
Yeah, I think the only people who can really outspeed her are people with actual teleportation.
I believe it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go on. So
So this
after
is a yeah. After we learned that Zanpakutos take many forms. This is Renji manifesting Zabimaru in the real world.
a monkey with a snake tail. I know there's like a story legend behind that, but I do not remember for the life of me.
Zabimaru means, I think, ape king and snake. I don't remember the exact definition of it, but it does refer to both the ape and the snake.
Yeah, I know there's like some legendary Japanese tale about something like that, but I can't remember for the life of me.
I don't know. I don't think I've ever heard of it myself, so I don't know if you're Mandeling yourself or it's an
That's
actual thing.
possible, but
Yeah.
I do
After
like the fur pattern with the purple and the white. And
Mhm.
now we
so
actually later on will learn something very interesting about this with his um sword spirit, which is I
yeah,
actually think was quite interesting.
I found it
But
hilarious too.
that comes later.
Anyway, we also find that Renji's colored himself in tattoos, so
Yeah,
you do you, buddy.
and they keep changing. I think.
No, they don't. He just changes head pieces so it looks different.
Mm,
But yeah, after losing Ichigo, he gets thrown in the brig for failing to stop the intruders.
yep. And
And
so,
Zabimaru shows up to basically remind Renji of why he sought power in the first place.
mm-hmm,
And Zabimaru's not pleased with how Renji's been acting lately, because see, Renji gained power to help Rukia originally. To basically, he wanted enough power to stand near her because as a Kuchiki, she's of noble blood and he is a commoner. So we'll find out why she's a Kuchiki later.
mm-hmm.
But he wanted to show up Byakuya and say, I can stand up and protect her better than you can, because he loves her.
Yep. And the thing is that this is his own, pretty much himself telling himself to get off his ass.
Yeah, the soul, the Zanpakuto spirit usually will express things about yourself that you yourself are not willing to admit to.
That also
Handy,
plays important later on.
also quite handy for plot convenience.
Yeah. Hey,
Also clever, right?
if you got a plot device, use it. I say.
Yeah. So getting his shit together, getting healed properly, he decides, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to save Rukia, and reveals his Bankai that
And I
he
like to say
is.
he did this faster than Ichigo did.
Yes, this
No,
is
now he had more knowledge of it, but
he heals Zabimaru. This is his first time using it in an actual fight. Who's he fighting?
yeah, that's going to well.
This is Byakuya using his Shikai Senbon Zakata. Scatter Senbon Zakata.
Mm-hmm.
So
Now,
this goes. pretty well until Byakuya points out to Renji that I'm a captain. I have Bankai too.
Yeah,
Shatter.
that's gonna be a
Send
lot of pedals.
Scatter. Senbon Sakura. Kagayoshi. Each of those cherry blossoms is technically a sword. In the manga, they're colored white, like, swords usually colored white. But the anime decided, nah, screw it, let's make it full-on cherry blossoms. And I actually prefer the manga.
Yeah.
I mean,
Now
the anime. The
the
anime
thing
looks better.
is that the thing is that they're being reflective light as cherry blossoms. They're actually little blades.
Mhm.
Like think flying laser or flying razors, pretty much.
Flying laser razors.
Yeah, pretty much. They cut like them.
So his Bankai is basically, well, if one sword made all those petals, how about all these giant ones?
Yeah, it kind of just.
It's a brutal
It's
fight
about
for
the same
poor
way you
Renji.
think it will.
Yeah. Renji's basically, this is day one using his Bankai. This is Byakuya day, I don't know, I lost count 300 years ago when I
Yeah.
learned Bankai.
Now, to be fair, Renji actually does catch him off guard by actually managing to touch him with his blade.
Yeah, Byakuya basically says there's no way that your fangs can touch me. And
Oh, that was it. It was the monkey trying to catch the moon.
yes, okay.
That's what this whole reference was. That's why the monkey. Okay, that's where I was getting it from.
Okay. I just know he said the word fang.
No, it's a story about a monkey trying to catch the moon in the pond. Have you ever heard that
Ah,
old story?
I've heard a variation of it,
Yeah,
yes.
but it's basically it's a reference to that story. Is what it all was.
How pointless it is, but then Renji actually manages to touch the moon.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, Byakuya's been taking the crap at him so long that there's no energy left for
There's
that
no
stab.
strength or energy left to continue to stab with a
But
broken
he,
sword.
but he did the impossible.
Mm-hmm.
So Byakuya rewards him with a scarf that's apparently worth half the Sari tag. It's stupidly expensive. That's how rich Byakuya is.
Oh, and he also doesn't. Uh, I guess
He,
somewhat
he's,
spoilers. He
hmm,
doesn't kick him out of the squad.
yeah, he does basically say, "I'm going to put you in detention for a while after you get your wounds healed."
Yeah, I mean this is technically grounds for this is actually this isn't technically this is a board
Yeah, he should be.
insubordination and shit.
This is basically like the sergeant trying to shoot the general.
And as far as the law is concerned, the general has done nothing wrong.
No, in fact, he's done everything right.
Mm-hmm. Which that comes to bite him in the ass later.
Yeah,
So moving along, Ruki is finally ready to die.
yeah. She eventually just submits to this. Like, there's no way she can stop this. She knows people are trying to save her, but
She
it
does
is
make
what
a plea to the head captain to spare their lives.
he says yes, but everyone knows he's just doing it to humor her. Some people say it's out of cruelty. Some people say it's out of kindness.
I think it's
I
some.
like.
I think if it hadn't gotten so far, he may have actually fully considered it. But
I don't.
no, I'm just saying before like the full break-in,
Mm.
it may have been a consideration. But at the point this is at, that's off the table.
Yeah, yeah. There's already been several captains. Well, there's one captain dead. Several captains in the hospital. They've turned Kenpachi loose on them.
Yeah, Kapachi turned around and went on them, so it's kind of
Several,
like
several, several lieutenants are either in jail or bleeding to death, or bleeding to death in jail.
or bleeding to death while laughing because he had fun.
Oh yeah. I don't. Wait, that wasn't lieutenant, was it?
Oh, I'm sorry, Ikaku was. I keep Ikaku always makes me think he's the lieutenant.
No, he's the third. He might as well be the lieutenant, but
Yeah,
no.
just because of how that works, but that's a different story altogether.
Quite 11 is confusing at times.
Yeah, but she's just accepted it and thinks that this will just solve everything. No, bad girl, bad,
The rescuee does not get to complain when the rescuer comes to save them.
bad girl, bad. You go in the corner, you think about what you did.
We know this image is completely out of place, but it's just we had to.
Yeah, this is too humorous. It's our show. Let us have some fun. So
Side note, yes, Ichigo is currently bleeding in that scene.
this was just after fighting
This is
Kenpachi,
sort of,
so
yeah,
there's some battle wounds still left.
this is
But
before. This is the scene that leads him to understanding he has 3 days to save her.
so now Hey, I came to save you, looking badass, blocking a phoenix with the power of 1,000,000 Zombok toes.
Yeah, this is the point where Bleach's power scaling makes no sense to me. If you say, they're mid Dragon Ball, late early Dragon Ball Z, that I can see that. But that since it's 1,000,000 Zanpakutos toes and it's supposed to be near the strength of the sun, maybe he might be planetary level powers. Either way, I can go either our argument for where Ichigo's strength is if you want to compare him to Goku at any point. My own personal headcanon is he's country level strong. Like if you wanted to, he could wipe out a country.
Yeah, I believe it.
That's my headcanon. If you don't like it, that's totally fine.
Also, I just love this look with the cape.
Yes, we get a better shot of that cave in a second.
Yep.
Because after destroying that Zanpakuto, yeah, this is pretty badass.
Yeah, now, like I said, Ichigo didn't. Well, no, Ichigo didn't destroy the Zombok toe, to be fair. He did manage to stop it easily, though.
Yeah, he just kind of destroyed the execution site while somebody else, well, Shunsui and Ukitake decide, you know what, screw this. This execution is suspect as fuck. Let's stop this, and they
Mm.
stopped with a magical MacGuffin.
A relic of one of the great families, if I remember correctly.
I think it was Ukitake.
One of theirs, but it's not that important.
Yeah, it's not important where they got it from. The important thing is they have the MacGuffin to save the day.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
Ichigo blocked the unstoppable Phoenix of
yeah.
death and
Oh, yeah,
destruction.
we're in enemy territory. Shit.
Yeah, basically, old man Yamamoto, he is of the law. She was supposed to die. The governing body said she gets executed. Anybody who prevents this execution has to face old man Yamamoto. So Shunsui and Ukitake realize, oh shit, we're the ones nearly strong enough to stop him. Let's lure him away from this fight.
Yeah, he is so dangerous. Him being near anybody is really bad idea.
Yeah, that's him releasing his Zanpakuto. Uh,
And this is
reduce
one of the fights I am pissed we got short sighted on.
reduce all things to ash. Ryujin Jaka, I believe is the phrase and sword.
Yeah,
And when he says reduce all things to ash,
he means it.
yeah,
And like I said,
we,
I am pissed this fight got diminished
yeah, I really
in
wanted to
both
see
the
it.
anime and the manga.
Now I understand why we don't get to see this. It would reveal too much about these three powerhouses. But
That doesn't mean I can't be disappointed by it either.
oh no, I'm disappointed.
Like,
I get it for plot and story progress, but this leads us into one of our problems with Bleach, which I coined as Naruto syndrome back in the day, which it probably has a proper name for it.
mm,
But it's basically let's have four fights, three to four fights happen at once, and rather than complete one fight at another, let's just go from okay, that guy attacked, jump to fight two.
oh, you mean like
This
this?
guy, yes, this is one of my favorite
Oh,
fights.
but then
This
we'll just
is
go back to this fight,
yeah for a few seconds.
and then we'll go to this fight, and then we'll go back to this fight. See the
hmm
problem there?
I get it. It's supposed to lead to tension, but at the same time, you just kind of want to sit there, go. Could you imagine that happening like in real life? Like you're watching a boxing match, and all of a sudden the ring just goes black, and all of a sudden it's a wrestling match instead. And then it cuts back to the boxing match, and you don't know why.
I mean, I think it was fine. It was
Champ.
only like two fights, and you can go in longer with each fight.
Mhm.
But when there's many fights going on here, with as many characters doing something as randomly as they work, sometimes you cut to Uryu and the others just running up the hill for God's sake. Like, yes,
Commenting about things.
I'm like, okay, I get it. They're running up the hill. You only have to show me that once, people.
Yeah,
Once.
I also don't mind when you cut when you're watching the fight, and then you cut people watching the fight, and they can better explain things to you. But when you also have that going on, and then another fight you cut to, and then you cut back to the guys watching the first fight, and then you cut back to the third fight, and you cut back to the first fight, and you cut back to the guys watching the first fight, and you cut back to the third fight.
It's ADHD, and it's Jesus Christ. Focus. I'm not trying to make fun of people, but that's what it feels like sometimes.
It really does feel like you're trying to watch three things at once, and it's really annoying.
I will say this though. This was also a fight I felt was too short,
Yes,
but
actually,
I kind of felt that for one or two reasons.
I felt like I've watched versions out where they've cut out all the jumping, and it's just this fight. I feel it's probably perfect in its length if we had gotten it at the less jumping in
Well,
the
I was gonna
neck.
say that it's probably because of the jumping, but also because I think Yorichi wasn't going to go full force on her.
Yeah, no. See, Soifun is Yoruichi's, well, best student, and Yoruichi was everything to Soifun.
Hmm.
She worshipped the ground. She's from Yoruichi is from a noble family. Soifun is from a retainer family. She was always raised to be Soifun's shield. So even as a child, she was looking up to Yoruichi. Yoruichi then took her under her wing to train her, and now Soifun stands where Yoruichi once did, as the head of all these things, as supposedly the now fastest Soul Reaper alive as well.
Now, there's a reason that they're so fast compared to most Soul Reapers. They have their own unique fighting style.
Well, no, they don't have a unique fighting style. They just have mastered it to such a degree.
Really, I thought it was considered its own separate fighting style because of the way how rapid movement it was.
No, theirs is to my. I might be misremembering, but I'm pretty sure theirs is just they're the masters of it.
Well, either way, they're masters of a unique ability that allows them to pretty much shoot spirit
Oh,
energy.
you. Oh, yeah, that itself, but they don't need that for most of their speed.
No, I'm just saying, but that adds to it, and that is just
Mm,
insane.
mm,
But it pretty much allows them to use the backs like jet engines, essentially.
yes,
And
it ends up destroying their uniforms, at least the backs
mhm,
of their uniforms.
that's
But
why
still,
that's why a lot of the uniforms that you'll see with some of the when they do it is pretty much just go cover the front and going in a neckline, and the backs are fully exposed.
yeah, most of the art you'll see of Soifon is that.
Hmm.
But this is one of my favorite fights in terms
Hmm.
of it might be my top five, top six
I
fights.
am a
But
sucker for good hand to hand fight. I will say that one. So this is pretty
I'm
good up
also
there.
looking for a good actual ninja fight.
But how are you supposed to see it?
But unfortunately, this fight is kind of plot irrelevant.
Overshadowed with a lot of things.
If
Number
this
one,
fight
I
was,
just think the next fight between Ichigo and
yeah,
Byakuya, which comes up, is
yeah.
well more deserving of the main scene.
I mean, you could cut this fight and lose almost nothing. Besides, I think it's beautifully animated, beautifully
Mm-hmm.
timed, and very dramatic for these two characters. It means a lot to both of these
Mm-hmm.
characters, and as these are two of my top five characters, obviously this fight is going to mean a lot to me. But if you don't care for Soifun, you don't care for Yoruichi, you won't miss anything for skipping this fight, and
In
that
the
sucks.
story of a whole for Bleach, you don't miss anything either.
It sucks about that. There's a
And
few, there's a
that's
couple of fights like
okay.
that, and it does suck. But the thing is, that's this is just a small tangent. This is one of the reasons why I don't automatically assume filler is bad. If you like a character, you want to spend more time with that character. So, ergo, if filler is done well, that means you're spending more time with characters you like. Why is that generally a bad thing?
And the other thing is that as I said, it's a small segment. There's I'm not to diminish the characters, but they're not the huge main characters. So you're not missing anything, unfortunately.
Mm-mm.
But if you have any sort of interest in them, even these small shorts are huge for you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, moving on. This is once again Byakuya showing off his Shikai.
Yeah,
One
it's still
sword made all these, and it feels very mesmerizing.
it is. So yeah, after Ichigo saves Rukia from the Sokyoku, Byakuya immediately steps in to stop him.
Well, first three lieutenants tried to stop Ichigo, and he just took them down with his bare hands.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. That was so instantaneous.
Yeah, that this kind of showed Ichigo's progress.
Yeah. Now the only reason why Soifun didn't jump in to fight Ichigo is Yoruichi dragged her away from the fight because
And Old
I
Man,
think Elmo Yamamoto was led away by Shunsui and Ukitake. It's pretty much implied that if Ichigo fought Soifun at that point, I think Soifun would have handed him his ass because, as we'll find out with Ichigo's Bankai later, I don't think it would have been very efficient against Soifun.
and there's also other concerns with that, which I'll get into as well.
Plus, I think Yoruichi just wanted to play with her old child, with the child she used to teach.
Hmm.
She's very playful, and I love that
So
about her.
Ichigo counters with the second time he consciously fired a Getsuga Tensho.
Yeah, this is him learning from Urahara how to use the attack unconsciously.
Just to get you an idea of the shape and how it usually fires.
Mhm.
Because it
You
is
also,
his spiritual energy fired from the tip of his blade, so that's pretty much him swinging it.
yeah, you also find out in the Bleach universe, if you know the name and announce the name of your attack, it is stronger because you and the attack are more understanding each other.
Which
If you just do,
forces
yeah, Byakuya to actually defend himself, which He's mostly been dodging shit.
Yeah,
It seems he is one of the faster Reapers as well, so he tends to dodge, but he could not dodge that.
yeah, he has
But luckily,
masters the flash step, but he
yeah,
does not
he
have the added acceleration of Soifun or
Shunko.
Yoruichi.
Yeah.
But
So Ichigo basically keeps berating Byakuya to use his Bankai, so Byakuya finally does, and actually kind of badly injures Ichigo. So Ichigo says, "All right, I guess I was trying to do this without my Bankai. Time to show you mine." Tensa Zangetsu, or Heavenly Chained Moon.
and this is my favorite version of it. I will say that one.
Not my favorite version of it.
Well, the blade itself is mine. The coat, not so much, but the blade itself, I like the simplicity here.
Again, I like a later version of it, but
You'll have to tell
you
me
do
which
you.
one after the podcast.
No, no problem. Um,
But
Now, the cross guard is a touchy subject, though.
okay, let's just get it out of
Uh,
out in plain view. It is not a swastika.
mhm.
It is,
It's
I think it's called a manju, if I remember the
yes,
terminology right.
it's a Buddhist symbol. Unfortunately, the Nazis did co-opt that general shape. The manju was a shape used by many religions around the world. And the Nazis decided to make that their flag logo.
Yeah, the thing is that the manju is actually in the opposite direction of the swastika, from what I've
Mhm.
read. So that's an easy way to tell. But now I can, which way you're looking at the sword, I can see you can kind of tell which way it's going and kind of get that impression. I can't fault you for that because you
No,
see what you see. I can't fault you for what
yeah,
happens. But the point is, what it is and what you see are not always the same thing. But
yeah.
that's supposed to be a manju for power, I believe.
I think enlightenment too. I don't remember off the top of my head. See, the thing is, whenever you try and look it up, you end up getting swastikas and people talking
Yeah.
about what.
I also got one
So,
interpretation of a symbol from an Indian tribe, so go figure on that one.
like I said, it's a very common, very simplistic design. Of course, many cultures around the world are going to create it. Much like how many cultures around the world decide to make pyramids. It's a simple design.
Now,
But
I'd also
unfortunately,
like to point out one other thing of foreshadowing with this sword: the chain.
oh yeah.
It is a broken chain, much like a chain that was on a plus before they go hollow.
Mhm.
And that's all I'm saying right now.
So yeah, everyone else's Bankai you may have noticed something else about. They're big.
Yeah, ridiculously big sometimes.
Byakuya made 1,000 swords, 1,000 giant swords, and then they spattered into thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of petals. Renji turned his snake sword into a giant snake puppet. Uh, Tolson's we didn't show, but Tolson's made a giant dome around someone.
Mm-hmm.
Komoro makes a giant
Giant.
samurai the size of a building. Ichigo's is a tiny sword with a new jacket.
Mm-hmm. Badass jacket though.
Byakuya actually refers to it as not a true Bankai and refers to it as a bastardization of a Bankai because Bankai are supposed to be big and reflect outward.
And Ichigo's fine with that if it means stepping on Byakuga's pride, because he
Yep,
does not agree with Byakuga being okay with executing his sister.
yep. Ichigo's Bankai is reversing it. Everything is coming inward. It's compressing things. It's making him stronger. It's making him faster. How much faster?
Link.
He got
Literally,
past.
pretty much, Byakuga blinked, and there was Ichigo with a sword to his neck.
Yep, past all those pedals. So if Ichigo's going to compress himself, Byakuya's going to finish the job of compressing him.
Yeah, by pretty much taking him in all directions. See, Byakuga up to this point has not been going full force with his Bankai.
As
He
he
can
needed
make
to.
his pedals a lot faster by using his hand movements, as you can see by his hand, by his head.
Yep. Unfortunately for him, Ichigo's so damn fast, he just swipes his sword all around him and knocks every pedal away from himself.
We do mean every pedal.
Yeah. He
And we're
might
pretty much right back to here.
pretty much, yeah. Now, Byakuya comments that you should have finished me off at this point, but Ichigo's just like, no, I just wanted to show off.
So, Byakuga reveals he has another card up his sleeve.
He compresses those swords into a dome of swords around him. I don't remember the exact name of it, but essentially, yeah, you can't really escape from all those swords. They're physically too compressed too.
And he's got
And they're,
full control over each and every one of them.
yeah, at one point he launches one into Ichigo's foot to pin him down.
See, the thing is that Ichigo's body is breaking down at this point.
Yeah, he has, like, Renji may have shown off his Bankai for the first time, but he had been practicing with it in secret. This is Ichigo's first time using it in an actual combat setting.
And he's still injured.
Yeah. It also doesn't help that he got himself re-injured by showing off the Byakuya, forcing him to go Bankai.
Yeah, so he's not fighting in top shape, and Byakuya knows this.
Yeah. In fact, Ichigo thinks this form makes Byakuya faster. No, Ichigo's body is basically getting worn down, and Byakuya is now able to catch up by going
Now,
his full speed.
fortunately, Ichigo overcomes this later, but right now this is a huge issue.
Yeah.
Plus, this is one of the reasons why I like Ichigo's powers. I like ones that make compress them, make you more powerful, rather
Yeah.
than be showy a lot of times. I
Like we
mean, I
say,
can
it's,
enjoy some showy ones that come up later, but
in fact, we're going to show off a showy one in this fight I really like. Yeah, but Ichigo is not always the smartest when it comes to fighting, but he does have some tricks up his sleeve,
yeah.
including getting a Tensho. Although, so wasn't it a different color before?
Let me
Why
go
did it change
check.
color?
Let me go check real quickly, see what's different color, just to be sure. Yeah, yeah, definitely different color, different shape. I mean,
I
this is
wonder
kind of
why.
what's more looking like.
I
So
wonder
let's
why it
double
changed.
check that real quick.
Yeah,
So
why? Why did
yeah,
it
it's
change?
definitely kind of more swirly too, black and reddish.
Why did it change color and
Uh,
shape?
yeah, someone made a reappearance in the show.
Yeah, as Ichigo started to lose this fight, someone decided to step in.
To pretty much, if I remember, told you that if he could stop being king, he was going to take over.
Hmm. And he has no intention of dying.
Now, if you also notice, there's an extra streak on the mask, right here, but on his cheek. I'm sure that's not important.
Luckily for Byakuya, who's getting his ass handed to him by this form of Ichigo, Ichigo does wrest control back.
Mm-hmm.
But because both of them are so injured, they decide to finish it all with one final attack.
And
Every
this just
sword,
looks really awesome.
every sword returning to Byakuya, which I am kind of glad it returned to being white, because if it stayed pink, it might not be as dramatic.
Yeah, this is clearly just, even if it was supposed to be pink, this is much better for show.
Yeah. So,
In
like true
true
samurai,
samurai fashion,
they clash blades.
and only one
And
can remain standing.
yep.
I mean, even like these wraps are not part of his Bankai. This is showing that he is still injured on his
Mm-hmm.
wrists.
Yep.
Like just the jacket and actually the pants didn't really change. It's pretty much the jacket and the sword is his Bankai.
Yep. So, Ichigo wins. And
But
Rukia gets to have a conversation with her adoptive brother.
that's right. He is not her blood brother.
He gets to beg for forgiveness in a sense. He knew he was in the wrong the entire time,
He
but
was in an almost no win situation.
see, as Byakuya is a nobleman, he has certain responsibilities, and he once broke one of those responsibilities to follow his heart. He married Rukia's older sister.
Now,
A
for those of
common,
you wondering, yes, that is her older sister. I know there's a very striking resemblance.
yeah. So she was ended up being pretty sickly too, and she didn't live a very long life. And to marry her, Byakuya basically broke a promise to his parents, who passed away not too long after that. So he made a vow to them that after following his heart one time, he would forever follow and uphold the rules of the Soul Society.
Mm-hmm.
But her last request before dying was she had to leave Rukia behind in the slums in order to try and make a better life for herself because Rukia was a baby. She couldn't take care of both of them. That's a terrible choice to make. So she
And
begged him.
sometimes that is the right one to make.
Yeah, so she begged him on death's door to find Rukia and take care of her. He broke the rules again to adopt Rukia, and that's when he made the vow to his parents' grave to never break the Soul Society's rules or society norms ever again. And then Rukia, a couple years later, ends up being committed. She's going to be executed. He is literally stuck in between breaking a promise to his beloved wife and to his beloved parents. He doesn't have any ideas, so his only reaction is just to go with the flow. And because he is such a stone-faced person, you don't get to see how much this is tearing him apart. And that's one of the reasons why I like Byakuya so much. After this point, he is more true to himself.
He's not suddenly a whole new character, thankfully.
No, he stays his usual stern, no nonsense self, but he's more honest to himself, and he's much more willing to bend rules rather than break them.
And despite bending the rules, that's not meaning he's breaking his promise to his love or his parents.
Hmm.
There is such a thing as that the rules are not always right.
Yeah, this image is from the third Bleach movie, and it's a. If we ever get to the movies, this is an image we'll use again. It's a very
Yeah.
important image.
But the other images I've heard, she looked way too much like Rukia. And I
And they
think,
didn't really have Byakuya unless it was manga ones, and we were trying to stick with anime.
yeah. But she
And
just looks. I just think she looks way too much like Rukia. That just really bizarre to me.
yeah, if they were twins, it wouldn't be so bad. But she was almost a full-grown adult, and Rukia was a baby.
Mm-hmm.
But I still like this image of Byakuya trying to take care of his sickly dying wife, and
I mean, the other
it,
thing is, like, why didn't she bring this up when she was alive and spending time with him? I think that would
I
have.
think well, it's probably along the lines of because she was already hearing how angry his parents were about him marrying her, and she probably felt incredibly guilty on top of being incredibly sick and not being able to do much for him.
Yeah, fair point.
But as she's dying, well, what do I have to lose?
Yeah, you got to point on that one.
Yeah, I
Which,
I do wish she tried to do it earlier. Maybe for all we know, she was using the resources she had as the lady of the Kuchiki house to look for Rukia, and because she was sick, she was failing at it.
yeah, and also to be fair, as far as we know, any spirit that dies naturally like this is pretty much vaporized, as far as we know.
I think
Like,
so, or they're immediately like spread apart and then reincarnated in the living world. I don't know. He's just never going to see her again,
yeah, it's kind of vague on that point.
as she is. Which, for I understand, like Soul Reapers and the people in the Wukong can live for hundreds of thousands of years. To them, this wedding and this marriage was like a blip in their history. It was 60 years, I think, to my understanding, and to them, that might as well have been 6 months.
Yeah,
And yeah,
but to
that's how.
Rukia, that was 60 years of happiness.
Yeah, to what? Not
Yeah,
Rukia,
yeah, I'm sorry, yeah,
Byakuya and Hasane, I
Asami,
believe
thank
it
you.
is.
Yeah.
It was 60 years of the purest, truest happiness. So yeah, this is. You end up really feeling sorry for Byakuya, despite the fact the entire season you're like, you bastard, you're trying to kill your sister, you heartless monster.
I mean,
Oh,
the thing is that you think he could have tried other avenues besides just going straight with the rules. Like there
he,
is, he could have at least
but
questioned it more. But you understand why he didn't.
yeah, and he apologizes for it. He admits he was not doing the right thing. He just literally did not know what to do. And you know what? That's pretty human not to have an answer to
Hmm.
a difficult political
I
question.
think that also proves that when he decided to follow the rules, he kind of painted himself alone in the corner. So when he had no idea what to do, he had no one to lean on.
Yeah, he had no one to ask for advice for because he's supposed to be the head of the Kuchiki clan, one of
Because
the most powerful families that's supposed to uphold the laws. What do you mean I can't? What do you mean the Kuchikis don't have all the answers? That's not how the noble families should work. They have to have all the answers all the
because
time.
despite Renji being his lieutenant, he never leaned on Renji to do anything until after this arc.
Yeah, after this arc, they actually become work associates, maybe even friends. Before that, it was the most cold and distant relationship ever. So yeah, when Rukia was adopted, Renji could no longer be in Rukia's uh, friends anymore. He was so common, he had to do something to see her, and the only way he could do that is become a captain. And to
Hmm.
become a captain, you become a lieutenant. And he wanted to be Byakuya's lieutenant just so he could one up the bastard.
And to prove himself to the person he had to go through, essentially, in the long run.
Unfortunately, spending so much time around Byakuya and the rules of the 6 units basically made him forget some things.
Hmm.
Yeah, he feels like a giant
Oh,
jackass.
by the way, you remember that murder mystery we were talking about earlier?
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! From here on
Surprise!
in, it was a
I
body double.
faked it.
Yeah. That character we haven't talked about for ages, he was the man behind everything. He's the one who forced the execution to happen because of, well, we'll get to that in a minute, but
Yeah, he's a villain. Who knew?
not just any villain, he's a ridiculously strong villain.
Oh God, yes he is. I'm just gonna stop that one-handed
Nah,
and
that's
not
that's
cut
pretty
myself.
That's pretty impressive. You know what would be really impressive?
Well,
Stopping
before
a
we go to that
bomb.
one, I would just like to say I like how this kind of brings up Frenchie's Shikai. It looks like silly string.
Does. But yeah, you know what's more impressive stopping a Shikai, but you know what would be better?
Yeah, I'm just gonna take all your blood. Thank you for the blood donation.
He catches Ichigo's sword with one finger, wraps it around the blade, and then Ichigo's blood explodes because I don't know, he was so fast at stabbing Ichigo.
I just think he's just offering a blood donation.
See, Aizen's Shikai, uh, Kyoga Sui, I can't pronounce it, Koga
Yeah, some of these words are really hard to pronounce.
Susui, its release is Shatter. They thought for years it took the water in the air to make simple illusions. No, you look at his sword explode, he has you completely hypnotized. As
Yeah,
in, I can control what you see, taste, smell, hear, and feel at all times.
and that doesn't
That's it.
end.
No, it doesn't end ever. So the only person who's never seen it that really took a chance to find it is Ichigo. All the
Mm-hmm.
captains see it because the captains like to show off their powers at like big demonstrations. He's got the entire Soul Society under hypnosis. That's how he was able to forge documents to get Rukia murdered. Yeah, there's a reason why he needed Rukia murdered.
Yeah, there was this little thing inside of her Gigai.
Yeah, Kisuke hid something inside of Rukia trying to either destroy it or hide it from Aizen. Being one of the few people truly aware of how powerful and evil Aizen is, but no means of destroying this item.
I just wonder when
This
Swamp
item,
Thing came into the picture.
yeah, it's a special weapon or item Aizen uses to reach into Rukia. He intended on just melting Rukia with the Sogokyu because he knew this item would survive a million Zanpakuto toast.
Yeah, that's telling you something.
This is Plan B, which he might have killed Rukia. He doesn't really care. He just didn't have the means of getting to it, but thanks to Ichigo's gang causing more chaos, he could.
Mm-hmm.
So
Because
Aizen kind
now
of felt,
anybody that could really try and stop him is either Oi fighting, injured beyond belief, or generally
or
doesn't care.
or so insignificant to him, they might as well be throwing wet tissue at him.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm sorry, I just thought of Joe Krat's crap guys throwing foam noodles at you.
Now I just picture everyone with foam swords trying to bash Aizen.
That's basically what they're doing to him.
So yeah, so we got a new more villainous look for him. You know, slicking back his hair. Pretty much saying, "Yeah, fuck you all, I'm leaving."
That's right. I am the last son of Krypton, the true villain all along. Yeah, he basically looks like, without his glasses, he looks like best Superman, aka mullet Superman. I'm not kidding. I think Superman looks good with a mullet. I also think Nightwing looks good with a mullet.
Ah, I think
I don't
mullets
know
are
why.
terrible, but it's my opinion.
I don't know why, but those two guys can pull it off. Nobody else can. They look terrible on everybody else.
But yeah, that slash behind him, yeah, he is opening a portal to Hueco Mundo.
I thought it was just dramatic. Well, I don't remember.
No, it wasn't dramatic lighting. I checked
Oh, okay, cool.
because remember it opens up like pillars opening up behind him after
Yeah,
slash.
he's heading
But
to Hekamunde, aka the world of the Hollows, because he's been in charge of a lot of Hollows for a while. We'll find out more about them next season.
mm-hmm. And that's where it leaves off. He leaves behind. The heroes are injured, and a few things get talked about between the human party and the Soul Reapers to settle things. But that's really side plot, really.
Mm-hmm.
But there is one thing we should talk about before we get into
Season one was
this.
good, but season two is where the music goes from one of the best OSTs to, I think, the best OST in an anime ever.
Bleach has some of the best soundtrack. It's well um, played. It knows when to stop. It knows when to come in. It doesn't overstay its welcome into the plots, and it's just beautifully like you're along for the ride.
Yeah. Kubo himself is a big fan of Western music, so he tends to, each character, while he started drawing them, he gave them an actual Western song theme. Sometimes a few of them have Japanese songs. But overall, music was an incredibly important part of Kubo's storytelling, so the OST really reflects that.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, season one is good. Season two is where it gets really good. That's where a lot of Soul's favorite ones come from. Mine come from season three. The other really good thing is when they do the Bleach movies, a movie usually has a bigger budget for both animation and soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
Anything they got really good from a movie, they decided, you know what? We've already made this amazing background song. Let's bring it back into the actual anime. A lot of my favorite ones come from that.
And
So
yep.
they never really waste music in the show. Like, just look up Bleach OST best of.
Mm-hmm. And there's even a lot of different opinions you can have about it too.
Mhm.
I mean, me and Em have different opinions about Ichigo's main theme.
Yeah, we do. Ichigo has his own theme song, number one. I don't think it really fits Ichigo 100%. Soul has sold me more on it, but I still don't think it's the best song for him. However, I still think the song is a fucking masterpiece.
Oh god, the song itself is great, and it's really energetic, and it's great for any of his fight scenes, though.
They have a lot of remixes to his song too.
Oh god, yes. I love some of the techno remixes; they're very good.
Mhm. Um, I was going to say something else about the music, and it just slipped my mind.
But each of the moments that are played, even if they're just short, like one tone, like maybe like one instrument played for like a short moment, that has an impact on the scene. Everything
And
has a place. Everything is well timed.
mhm.
Even if it's just supposed to be like background music, it fits in well. It's
It
not
also
overpowering,
no,
but it adds to it.
and every song tends to have a different genre too. In fact, like I was, we'll find out in season three, they freaking go nuts with the Spanish guitar.
Oh God, yes.
This one has a bit more traditional Japanese sounds to it, which, oh yeah, that's good.
But it
That's
also
good.
matches the environment and what's going on at the time. The Soul
They
Society was very old Japanese, as you saw from the clothing and the
also,
few buildings you saw.
yeah, there's also a lot of good rock songs as well.
Oh God, yes.
Yeah,
Like this is just good music in general. Like you can
and
always say a few weren't your favorite, but could you say
yeah,
they're bad songs? I don't think so.
like the only anime soundtracks I find that come close to touching Bleach's magnificence are from Sunrise, and their Code Geass soundtrack and Gundam 00 soundtracks are really damn good.
Mm.
They don't quite meet it because there's a few vocal songs in Bleach that are sung in English very, very well.
Oh, that's something else I wanted to bring up.
Mhm.
Much like Lelouch, Johnny Young Bosch brings such a nice thing to Ichigo that his
Mhm.
pause when he does his Bankai
Yeah, I
is very well received by even the Japanese.
yeah, he's one of the few. Uh, Johnny Obash's two of his most famous roles. He ends up being like oftentimes beloved by the Japanese audience too. I know we talked about it in the Kogias episode ages ago, but they sometimes replaced the Japanese actors' laugh with Johnny's insane laughter.
Mm-hmm.
There's a few compilations I've seen where it's all Japanese, and all of a sudden it's Ichigo's English actor going, "But God,
Because he added that pause that wasn't in the script, from what I've heard, and it just
yeah."
made all that
Which
difference
I
too.
believe the Japanese version did copy that later on, which I've seen some people complain, oh, Bankai's only good when it says there's Bankai, and look at the Johnny Young Bosch here saying it Bankai really fast. Like, that's what the script called for at that point. Sometimes he'll say it fast, sometimes he'll say it slow. The Japanese version does it too.
And it's more
So,
of a moment, but that first moment that had the energy and the impact it needed for it.
yeah, you end up saying yelling Bankai to yourself after seeing Ichigo do it the first time.
Mm-hmm.
You'll just catch yourself like, oh, I'm doing
And Ichigo
dishes.
does say it fast later on because hey, I gotta do this now.
Yeah. But yeah, you will, like I said, you will say Bankai to yourself every now and then without even meaning to. Don't deny it, Saul.
Over 10,000 Ninja Info Bankai cards.
I didn't think they can. Anyway, so what did you think of season two? Is it your favorite season of Bleach?
It
Like
is.
the vast majority of people I know say season two, the Soul Society, the Rescue Rukia is the best, and everything afterwards is downhill.
It's actually probably my third favorite season
I would probably say the same.
because
Although to be fair, one of my favorites is a filler arc, so I may not be allowed to count it.
I will know you count it, but you can't mention it,
That's totally
and
fair.
we can't mention the rest of it anyway. So
Mm.
the first season was probably some my fifth or my sixth, depending upon how things work out.
Yes, I
It's a
agree with that.
solid start, and it leads into a lot. The second one, you get a lot more of an explanation of why Rukia was in such deep trouble.
Hmm.
Not to mention a lot more questions get answered, and a lot more questions come up.
And the heaviest world building is done there, I find.
Mm-hmm. But as we stated, it gets pretty much slammed with extra characters.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not calling them extra characters because they're useless or they're not interesting, but when you have this many, the word extra still comes to mind.
Hmm.
Now, the problem here is that, like, I tried to show that I try to come up with solutions that I think could come up with, and I can't come up with one because a lot of them I find are interesting. Like,
Oh yeah.
to cut out the ones that I didn't find interesting, which, to be fair, if you did, that's your prerogative.
Yeah.
It wouldn't change anything.
People might complain we didn't do enough with Ichigo. He's incredibly popular.
He
I
does
like.
more in later. He does have a couple of good fights in this arc, but due to time constraint, we had to cut something.
Yeah, he's not one of my favorite. I don't dislike the character. I get why he's so popular, but there are characters I think deserve more spotlight, and you're allowed to disagree with both of
Mm-hmm.
us. Oh,
And
agree on our top 10 Sawyer first.
yeah, he
He's much
will
more.
get more talking to in the next season as
Yeah,
well because he does make more appearances later on.
we can't
But
like deny him. So yeah, Hitsugaya fans, don't worry. He's getting the spotlight soon, and where he gets it, he deserves it, in my opinion.
to be fair, he does fight one of my favorite villains. So,
Except for the second movie, which if we ever get around to, it will mostly be saying bad things. But the second
well,
movie,
to
I
be
think, is the
fair, I
worst.
just pretty much want to get the main story done. Maybe take a break and come back to this filler. But
Mhm.
we are at least trying to get the main story out there.
We definitely won't get it out there before Bleach comes live because October 10th is when we're getting the new season.
Oh, we might have it done by then.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll try.
If we can keep on the pace I would like to, we at least have at least a good portion of it done.
Yes, I can say that much. But we may not get to the extra stuff, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. But I guess it's time we gave you a little bit of a spoiler for the next season.
I thought we were going to discuss more things about the Soul Slayer because you have to ask me my opinions of it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot you had opinions. I thought you were just a lifeless skeleton.
I wish I wasn't left with skeleton. I would have less fat.
Okay, so let me ask you this one: if you were to change something throughout the entire arc, where would it be?
I You came up with the idea I really like. I wish we gave Chad a really big win.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not upset that he lost to Shunsui. I think that was really good.
He should have had
But
at least a lieutenant or a captain win. Maybe one of the lower rung ones. Maybe not a captain, but like a lieutenant.
yeah, personally, if I was going to give him a captain win, I'd give it against Kumamura, the werewolf. Put a jobber against a jobber.
I could see it.
Um, Part me kind of wishes Ichigo also stayed with his friends longer because him going off on his own with Yoruichi just kind of feels like Chad, Orihime, and Uryu are pointless.
Yeah, after he does kind of get done with Kenpachi, it does kind of feel like they just kind of wander around doing nothing. Or
Yeah,
just wind up in the hospital just healing.
yeah.
But to be fair, that gets them out of the way so you can deal more with Soul Society too. So I kind of see the trade off
And
there.
if it was up to me, I'm not saying who I'd remove, but I would not have made it 13 squads. If we never got the number of enemy more characters we're going to get in the later seasons, 13's good, but by the end of it, we've got far too many now.
Well, they could have said 13 and said somewhere else dealing with other things.
Yeah, and we may never have to see these ones.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying I dislike any of the captains we got. I think they're all interesting, and even the one I dislike, I understand why he's there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's impossible for you to like every character in a show. But I still think 13 is kind of a huge number. In fact, there's technically even a 14th squad we find out in a much later season.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about those guys.
Actually, in fact, there's a 15th squad we find out even later.
Stop that. I'll smack you.
And if you wanted to, we actually technically could separate squads because apparently some of them got smooshed together.
Oh, yeah, that really gets rearranged.
Yeah, it's confusing as all heck because technically Squad 2 is like three organizations smushed together.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad they never explained the bureaucracy, to be honest with you.
Yeah, yeah.
It
Uh,
functions. That's all you need to know.
yeah. There's no. fights, I feel like I'd cut, maybe rearrange them a bit, and I certainly would our rant about things going on at the same time as annoying as frig.
Hmm. I think that's one thing we agreed on is that we would try and straighten out a little bit.
Yeah. Now I think it gets worse during the next season.
Yeah, but at least the fights are a little bit more on par, I would say.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Um,
it's not quite as bad. Essentially, it's not like I'm not trying to sound insulting, but it's not the Yoruichi
mhm,
Soy Fun fight where it's kind of like this is just to keep her out of the way.
yeah. Do we want to talk about the behind the scenes changes Kubo did on the spot, or save that for another episode?
Uh, let's save that for the next, maybe in the filler or at the end because we're really stretching it here.
Okay, I can agree with that.
So let's leave you with your snippet for the next season. Yeah, well, looks like things aren't going well for Ichigo later on either.
Oh, sweet merciful God.
I think that's going through both of his arms.
Um, it's a lot more graphic in the manga where it's going through.
But
Yeah, just because Ichigo's got Bankai does not mean fights will be easier.
and yes, we are skipping the Bound arc, which I will mention now. But as we
Mm,
said, that's considered a filler for a lot of reasons, which will be covered after everything.
yeah, we'll probably do filler and then movies
Mm-hmm.
as their own separate one. We might even do two filler episodes because there is a lot of filler in
If we have
Bleach.
to, we'll
So,
do fillers and movies as their own separate thing, but that's later down the road. And like I said, I want to get the main story out there. Take a break, do something else, like take a breather from doing this constantly,
mm.
and then maybe come back to it in bits and pieces there once we have time to breathe and we get this out.
Maybe our next one will be a Gundam episode.
Well, I kind of actually have a plan for what I want to do next. It's
I
what we
mean,
talked about before.
it'll be less painful for me.
Oh, this one won't be painful either. I mean, the guy's got a giant sword after all.
Oh yeah,
So, I would like to thank you all for joining us. And I forgot to do it last time, but here's our intro outro one more time because I would like to try and play these as we go in and out, just to kind of give myself some breathing room to know when everything ends. But once again, I'm Soul. This is my co-host M. We'd like to thank you for joining
yeah.
us.
You all take care now.
Indeed.
One, kai.